All right, welcome guys to episode 34. Prepared your, it's like monthly, weekly TBC podcast now. I don't know, last one was like a month ago. Sorry guys, but Blizzard likes to release stuff and make the timing really weird for some of these podcasts. But yeah, welcome back guys. We're back after a bit of a hiatus.
Ooh. PTR literally just went down apparently, so.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like, just went down.
Yeah, so yeah, Blizzard likes doing things like right when we're planning to do the podcast. So for people that don't know,
like, podcast starting, PTR go down. No.
Literally last week I think I was literally about to hit the go live button, and then Zirene sends me a message, I think 30 minutes before official start time, and he's like, they just brought PTR up, right?
Yeah.
So that's why we haven't had the podcast in a while. We were waiting for news, and then Blizzard just released everything at the worst timing for us. But the good news is this week, Blizzard released all the news before the podcast. So we actually got a big, spicy, juicy podcast today to talk about. So obviously today, we're going to talk about...
There's so much that I don't think I've been able to actually catch up on all the reading.
Yeah.
The State of the TBC server post is just like, these are essays. So
we got a lot of stuff to talk about.
Big market W.
So for people coming back, welcome. We're going to talk about all the big announcements. So obviously phase 3, the big PvP changes, which I think a lot of people have the wrong take on it. Actually, I think they got the wrong idea about these big PvP changes that just came in. We're going to talk about the chicken drama, whether chicken should be nerfed or not. And then there's some Blizzard posts, like the State of TBC Servers responding from a dev on the forums talking about that as well. And it's just some general PTR shenanigans, Black Temple stuff we'll talk about as well. And I got a brand new fancy page on the website that I'll show you guys later as well. Zirene hasn't seen this actually. I designed a whole Payo table website thing that's all fancy and stuff, but it's almost done. But yeah, we'll show that in a bit. But what's up, Zirene? It's been a while. Is it literally a month since the last time I saw you?
Basically.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it literally has been. I'm looking at the last time it must be. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Got a haircut a few weeks ago. Started the year off by breaking my hand. So that's fun.
Oh, I didn't see that. How'd you do that?
When my roommate and I get really drunk, we like to do karate. That is the stupidest sentence I've ever said in my life. We like to do drunk 2 a.m. kitchen karate, okay? He's a black belt. I took Taekwondo a little bit back in the day, which is obviously not karate, but so we were doing simultaneous block striking. So a lot of blocks, or good blocks in my opinion, are ones that actually lead into strikes immediately. So we were doing that, and I struck him, and I definitely hit him wrong. You're supposed to hit with your two knuckles closest to your thumb and put all of your force there. You kind of learn that with board breaking. And I think I struck him with my whole hand and in his side. He ended up really bruised, and he showed me 2 days later. But I struck him, and I remember my hand felt like it turned off. I go limp wristed, and I was and I'm fucking blasted drunk. So I'm just I'm oh man, my I think I fucked up my hand. And he goes, again. And I'm like, dude, my hand is kind of, he's like, strike me again. And I'm like, okay, bro. I just kept hitting him with a fucked up hand, over and over again. He's like, again. We're fucking idiots. So
God, wait, it's your right hand as well, isn't it?
It is my right hand.
Oh
so
no, that is bad.
I'm playing WoW with one finger on the mouse.
Oh, that is some adaptation you're gonna have to go there.
Yeah, I left click and right click with the same finger right now, so that's fun.
Yeah. See DJ Tom Cruise is in the chat, plays with reality. You're gonna have to adopt some of the reality keybinds. I think with
your
lack of hand skills right now.
I have no grip strength. If I literally grip my covers to take them off me in the morning, my hand hurts doing that. I have to use my left hand for everything, opening shampoo bottles and stuff like that, everything. So it's I mean, I've broken my right arm before. I broke actually both my radius and ulna straight through before when I was younger. So I'm, not unfamiliar with having to use just one hand for everything, but it sucks a lot. And you definitely, your instincts, if you aren't paying attention to everything, I guess things that you didn't have to be conscious of before, you definitely have to be conscious of now. Like if you're opening up a jar or anything like that, you're like, oh, gotta swap it. And so everything takes like a little bit longer to do. Taking a shower takes a little bit longer. Getting up, getting dressed takes a little bit longer. So it's shitty. It'll be like a few more weeks, but
is it broken or is it like fractured or sprained?
Metacarpal fractures through your. It's basically like the part inside your hand is like fractured, hairline fractures. So nothing's like out of place. So they're not like broken through, but they're ligaments and I basically fucked up my hand. Ligaments and bones are not in top shape right now. So it was really funny too, because he and I were talking about going back to the gym. So I've just been like running a little bit more.
Oh yeah, about to get some good leg workouts in apparently. Instead.
Yeah. It's basically all I can do right now. So I was like, and it really makes me not want to go to the gym until I'm like 100%. So it's just, I'm being tested at the start of the new year, So
wait, when did this happen?
This happened on the 1st. So
okay.
we're 2 weeks into it.
Yeah, I guess it has been a while since we talked, huh? When did when did the thing I posted to you arrive, by the way? Because I have no idea. It literally, like, my tracking still says
arrived around Christmas.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
good timing.
I'm gonna go get it because it's actually really good, guys. So hold on.
All right.
What's it? I gotta do the pokey thing. I don't want to be clipped standing up,
Yeah, chat. You guys don't know, but basically, I sent Zirene a little Christmas gift. You guys will see. It is a deconstructed Game Boy Color. I've got one as well. I bought one a while ago. I found one, and then I thought it was really cool, so I got Zirene one as well.
So, it is this. I haven't taken the front off of it yet, so it still has like the little plastic cover.
Ooh, the Payo.
It's a deconstructed Game Boy Color. Actually, really cool. Because I owned like 2 of these when I was younger, and when story about how I really got into gaming was my dad was like completely against game. He didn't want me to have any games at all. We couldn't watch TV unless it was like for 30 minutes. And that was that. He was just like, no TV, none of that stuff. So when I broke my leg when I was like 10, I was in traction in the hospital, and my dad was a college professor, and the president of the university said that I could have anything I wanted, and I asked for a Game Boy Color with Pokemon, and my dad hated that, but the university professor gave it to me. So my little brother and older brother were then like, hey, why does he get a Game Boy? So they had to get a Game Boy, but they shared between the 2 of them. So I got to have Pokemon and Game Boy Color all to myself while I was just in traction, nothing else to do. And God, did that save me. Like being in traction for like 6 months for a broken leg in the hospital, you're going to go crazy if you don't have video games. Like, it's just straight up. There's like nothing else to do.
Oh, so, I know about that. My friend is testing that in quarantine right now. He got the old Omicron and like the Korean thing. He's actually perfectly fine, but they got some rules that because he's foreigner or something, and then because he's at certain stage of it, he's got to go to the hospital. So he pretty much just locked him in there. He doesn't get his laptop, which I thought was a bit rough. So all he's got is a phone and a bed.
Why is he not get his laptop?
No,
his laptop gonna get contaminated?
Yeah, he's literally in there with a phone and a bed. Apparently, he just sleeps all day now because he's got nothing else to do. Yeah,
it's like pretty fucking terrible. So yeah, that's how it all started. So that actually is a really good present. I ended up getting Pokemon Yellow, and I remember I started to dissect like how this was like the min-max when I first started understanding min-max was Pokemon, because there were EVs in that game, which were just completely terrible. But then also it was like based on your starter, how easy was the game? Because my theory was like Bulbasaur was actually easy because you played against Brock and then Misty, both of which you're good against as grass. Then if you play like Squirtle, you're super effective against the first gym, and then the second gym you're neutral against, right? Not very effective, but it's like both ways. And if you play Charmander, that's actually hard mode because he gets fucked over by rock and water. So the first two are like really hard. And then if you play Pokemon Yellow, that's the fucking hardest one because it's impossible to beat fucking Brock. Like I played Pokemon Yellow, that game is bullshit. You have to like train up Pikachu super hard, and like the only other Pokemon you can get at that point is like a fucking Spearow or a Pidgey, and those are both flying types, which get fucked by rocks. So, Pokemon Yellow actually was like my first encounter with like a hard wall where I learned what grinding was. Because in all other video games, it never occurred to me, oh yeah, if something's hard, just go grind more levels. Pokemon Yellow was like, you literally cannot beat this shit unless you have like a Rattata. Or like two Rattatas, and like you're like, oh boy, these are the best things you have. It's like, come on, man. So yeah, that was my first encounter with actually grinding to beat something. But yeah, so I really appreciated that gift. It was really nice. It was up there with my friend who I got myself a gift. Honestly, he didn't buy it for me. He introduced it to me. It was I was looking for a new water cup. And it's a good cup.
But no, I'm happy you like it, man. Like I think it was like what you were saying, where like I feel like when I get gifts from other people, the best gifts are always the ones where they're really cool, but it's hard to yourself to justify getting it. But then because you're like, oh man, that's really cool, but I don't really want to spend that money on it. It's not something I actually need. But then like if someone buys it for you, you're like, oh yeah, that's sweet. That's sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually, I was telling Snow this. Getting gifts for me is like really hard because I'm not a gifts kind of person at all. I usually like don't integrate whatever you get me into my life. Like this hasn't been hung up yet, which is obviously something I gotta like put a conscious effort into doing. Because I do care about it. But it's like getting me something that is supposed to like enhance my life or, replace something I currently have. I'm probably not going to do it. But if you get me something that's like novel, I'm going to love it. So something that has like nothing to do with almost anything or like that I use in my daily life, just something nice is always going to be something that I appreciate more. Like, I don't know why my mom got me like these things that look like a fire escape. But they're like it's like this big. It's like a fire escape, and it's got like a Z with the ladders. And she was like, "Oh, it's like Z for Zirene. You could put it in the background of your stream." Well, it actually sits out in the living room, and it like holds my keys and like air freshener and stuff like that. And it's like super nice out there. So it was like something where I was like, "Damn, this actually came in handy." So whenever you get me something novel, I'll always find like a way to use it. But if you get me something like, God, my ex got me when I was in college, my ex got me something because I had ADHD. She got me a pen and paper that the pen has a recording device in it. And as you write, it's constantly recording on the special paper. And if you take the pen and you press on the paper later, it will play the recording at the time you were writing that. So if I write like a bullet point that says like, neuron or something like that, or like make more bullet points and stuff like that, if I press the pen on the paper, it will start playing the recording that was happening while I was writing that. So I'll get the lecture at that point. So I'll know what I was writing. Is actually really interesting because I'm a handwriting kind of person. I don't like typing. Typing is way too like automatic for me. Everybody in college had like laptops out, and I was just like, nope, I'm just gonna write. I have to handwrite everything because it just the motion of writing was just
it helps you remember things. I feel as well.
It helped me remember a lot more. Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, it was Blizzard said PTR is done. Yep. Yep. I got pinged like an hour ago of like, it's like, get on now, it's an emergency. And I was like, I'm doing a podcast. So yeah. Oh well.
Oh, I'm gonna get pings in a few hours when my guildies get back, and they're like, oh, I guess we're not doing raids today.
Yep. Yeah. So how was your new year?
Pretty good actually. It's weird. It's weird. Holidays in Korea are really weird because you know how you gather with your family for Christmas and all that stuff? They don't do that in Korea. Christmas is like you go out with your wife slash significant other, girlfriend and such, and you just hang out. They don't really do like a big Christmas thing here. And then New Year's is just like another day here. Really, they do New Year's stuff, but it's nothing special really that much here. So yeah, it's interesting. But no, it's been a good rest period. I've been slowly getting ready stuff. So I've been studying a lot of YouTube analytics. Weirdly enough.
Ooh, okay.
Because I've been getting ready to launch my second channel, which I want to get that to like 100,000 subs in 1 year at the least. So it's like I've been learning how like the science behind virality, like how you do your topics, how you edit the video, all that stuff. It's been fascinating.
The clickbait is coming. Improve your DPS by 5,000. You'll never guess what trick I'm using. 100 parse every time, guaranteed.
Yeah, I just go to BuzzFeed and then I copy and paste and put WoW into the title. But yeah, no, it's fun. Today's actually my birthday as well. Today's literally my birthday today.
Happy birthday.
Hey, thank you.
Chat, say happy birthday. Chat, sing him happy birthday. Okay? Line by line, all right? Let's ready? Ready? Begin, guys. No messing up, okay? Yeah. Mango's got it. Mango started.
This is going real well.
Almost. Oh shoot!
We're still unhappy. It seems.
I mean, yeah. At least I'm not saying if they mess up, they have to go back to the start. You know. Phil's birthday, man. Can I get a Phil's birthday, man, in the chat for Snow? Oh yeah, what a great birthday gift is that PTR got taken down.
Yeah. You know, the perfect birthday gift. I was telling chat earlier, it's like tomorrow is going to be my proper birthday where it's weird for my birthdays. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm old. I just don't want to do anything. I just want to do all my favorite things and nothing else for my birthday, and nothing changes. I want to wake up. I want to like have my favorite breakfast, and then go like maybe later I'll go have like Shake Shack or something for a little lunch and a nice meal, and then like maybe have the time to like work out for an hour and just chill, and then like not think about WoW or anything, or literally just like chill and read some graphic novels and just chill and everything. Yeah, that's my birthday plan. Is to do nothing. Is to do nothing and not worry about anything for one day. And that's my tomorrow scheduled in.
So, I mean, on your birthday, you get to do whatever you want. So,
yeah. So that's
whatever you want to do, man. My birthday, I like to veg out and then have like a cookie pie, you know? My mom actually like got me a cookie pie last year. It was actually really sweet. I loved that stuff when I was a kid. It's just a giant cookie. You just cut up in slices because it's too big. Oh man, there's actually so much information right now. I am having a hard time scrolling through everything. Like there's an arena tournament for Classic that's announced.
So much stuff.
Like, there's a lot.
There's actually so much stuff. Okay, but I guess we should get into some TBC talk today. We got to catch up.
Otherwise, we'll never get into it. Welcome to the podcast, guys.
Yeah, welcome to the podcast, guys. Now we start.
There's a timestamp that starts.
Yeah, there's definitely a timestamp. There's definitely a lot of people that just skip to this timestamp. Welcome, guys. We're going to talk about WoW now. Let's talk about the PvP changes first. Why not? We can save the Season 3 announcement and Phase 3 announcement stuff for after that. But PvP changes. Well, let's talk about the PvP changes, because I feel like a lot of people have a really wrong take on this one. So let's pull them up. The PvP changes, for people that don't know, Season 3, they are basically saying... Let's make this bigger. They're nerfing Mind Quickening Gem. So it's going from 330 haste rating down to 100 haste rating. They are saying that you can't use engy belt, the invulnerability belt. You can't use nets. You can't use dazzling longswords. Quick, sell them before people find out. You can't use silent fangs. and you
Where's the link
can't
to this?
use Skull of Impending Doom. Just a blue post on your forum.
Good.
So yeah,
Good. This is
basically-
actually really good.
Yeah, I don't know anyone in the PvP scene that is actually upset with these changes. Because,
I mean,
well, maybe if you're a
Venruki, 'cause he
mage.
finally,
Maybe if you're a
it's
mage,
probably
but it's like-
Venruki because he just got his mind quickening gem like a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
for the
that's
first
true.
time
Yeah, he's
after,
been
like,
doing it for so
years
long.
of trying. So yeah, I think they were like, he's too strong now. We have to nerf this. So
Yeah, chat. For
I mean-
people that don't know, Venruki's been like doing Black Wing Lair for every week for God knows how long, and it just never dropped. For
Mhm.
the most absurd amount of time I've ever seen someone do Black Wing Lair and not get it to drop.
he just tweeted about it. Farmed MQG for a year and it gets gutted 2 weeks later.
He's not even kidding. It really was like a year of farming.
Oh, wait. The range of possible opponents is expanded. This will help matching of different players' levels more quickly, as before teams with similar rating who queue at the same time will be prioritized
Oh,
against
yeah,
each
the
other.
first part. Yeah.
So, yeah, so they're speeding up queues, but you'll play against people who might be more higher or lower rated than you. So they're expanding the range. So the queues will pop more frequently.
Well, the thing is, this already happened naturally. It just there was like usually a wait time. You had to wait for it to expand. So I think this is actually fine. It just speeds up the process a bit, so that nothing actually changes. It just means that you're not sitting there for. As someone who is guilty of doing a lot of 5 a.m. queuing and such, there's a lot of times when you're sitting there going, "Man, why do we have to wait for the algorithm to kick in to matches against the team that we're going to get matched against anyway? It must as well just speed up the process." So I think that's actually like really good as well.
Yeah, I like all of these changes. MQG is just something that it's a really strong item that was overlooked in terms of balance back in the day. It was definitely not intended to be as strong as it is right now. And it didn't get the same treatment as a lot of other items that went from classic to TBC.
Yeah, I
So
mean, it was
it's
literally
definitely an
so
outlier.
broken that one of my arena plans for next season was literally so Beckinsale, for people that don't know, who's one of the best warlocks on NA. He's got a mage out. And me and Jake and Bake, we were both figuring out our plans to get an easier Glad next season. And one of our plans was we get Beckinsale's mage and then we run Black Wing Lair pugs with our clout. And I was gonna like con Zirene into tanking for us every week and get an MQG for him. And as payment for the MQG, he was gonna have to be forced to be our partner in the last 2 weeks of the season. And then we abuse Rogue Mage to Glad. Basically, it was me and Jake and Bake's plan.
Well, the thing I like about this the most is like this is reactive, and it's actually like a patch that I think they should be doing. This is one of the things that I was for people who actually don't know, I applied to Blizzard QA and I got an email back, so I have a phone call meeting with them at some point.
Ooh.
So yeah, and this is like one of the things that I would definitely talk about is they aren't reactive enough to things, and changes keep the game spicy. And I like that they aren't going overboard here, because all of these items are a gimmick problem in some way, shape, or form. Like MQG, if you have it or don't, it's a big difference for a mage. Nine Vulnerability Belt, people will argue that this is a nerf to double DPS, but I think it's actually a net neutral, because I can't tell you how many times a double DPS has tried to jump a druid, and then the druid is like, belt, by the way, and then actually lives, right? So it's not just a double DPS nerf, it's a buff to them as well. So I think it's a change and a net neutral, because how many times have you tried to kill like a priest or a druid who actually has belt, and then they live because of it as a double DPS team? So
I'd actually even say it's a net positive. I would actually even say as someone who literally only plays double DPS, I literally like if you look at my match history this time, guys, I played like 700 games of only double DPS this season. So it's really frustrating when you're on a healer and then they belt at like basically nothing and then they survive. Especially if you're not playing a bursty double DPS where I'm playing like Rogue Luck where we have to set up and then we get the DPS. But it's actually, I think it makes us stronger. The fact that a lot of the healers can't belt now. Or that enemy Rogue Mage teams can't do the cheese where they open on you, hit belt right away, and you just sit there going, well, shit, like, what do I do now? He's got like 4,000 extra HP. I can't do anything to him. So I think it's actually stronger for double DPS. Like it certainly hurts in that you can't survive forever at the end if you get a really close game. But I would rather the healer that we struggles so hard to kill sometimes with belt just dies faster, and then we don't even reach the stage where we have to rely on like an emergency belt to win the game.
That I think also making engineering not a requirement. I think one of the big things that pushes people away from Arena is the requirements to feel like you actually have a competitive chance. The invulnerability belt and having full engy is a big one for healers and double DPS teams. Another one is just the honor. I think another thing that they should do is they should definitely change honor to some degree. It takes a long time to farm up all the honor that you need and the marks and stuff. And I understand, because I've talked to somebody about this before where they said honor is a tricky thing to change because you only need honor until you don't, and then you don't need any more. So like BGQs would actually, the time would go up because if you made it so that you required less honor, people would BG for less time, right? So you'd be like, oh, I'm done and I never have to touch BGs again, was their argument. So I can see that having higher honor requirements for things makes it so that people have to spend more time in BGs. But I can tell you that on a lot of my characters have just gone, I'm not going to do it. It's too much honor to farm on a fucking prot warrior. Like, I'm not doing that shit. So it's also dissuaded, I think, more people from joining because it's such it's so intimidating, and it doesn't have that feeling of payoff where like you grind BGs for a day and then you don't get like an item at all, right? You grind BGs for like 2 days and you maybe get like one item at the very end of the second day, and you're just like, this is what I did all of this for, like a 2 resilience, like 3 stamina upgrade. It's like, damn, this was worth it, man.
Yeah, I mean, you can especially see the pain right now where you can't even skirmish right now when Arena's down, which is very weird, by the way. I don't understand why skirms are down as well. And every PvP stream is literally just BGQs after BGQs, and they're slowly just going insane, playing only BGs all day because they have nothing else to do.
Yeah, I think BGs inherently have like some issues with them too that need to be potentially addressed, because BGs just aren't, like, if you aren't winning instantly, it's not fun for the grinders. And if you are losing slowly, it's also very unfun for the people who are losing. So I feel like there needs to be more incentive inside of, like, this is going to sound weird, inside of actual like HKs themselves. I just think the amount of honor you get for killing someone or even splitting or healing somebody who's killing someone should just go up. And I think the amount that you get for just BGs in general should go up and just make it feel more rewarding to actually win a game. But also I feel like I don't want to be like participation trophy dude and be like, oh, but losing a game should also give you honor, like more honor as well. I think it should, but just keep the same delta between winning and losing. Right. Yeah. It just, things are too expensive. There's not enough honor to actually like go around. And I think that's a big thing that dissuades people. But going back to like the items, the Dazzling Longsword, Silent Fang stuff, that makes perfect sense to me. The Skull of Impending Doom, there was a cheese that was starting up where like there was like a Ret Paladin Shaman that was abusing the fact that you, if you sack someone and then they skull, it puts you in combat, and then you just rank 1 heal each other and you permanently stay in combat because you just keep going back and forth. So Shaman and Paladin rank 1 healing each other after the Skull of Impending Doom tick just keeps them in perma combat so they can't be sapped. And so it was a bit of a problem.
These items it's really good. I don't know any PvPers that hate these nerfs because entire metas were developing around these items, which is really unhealthy for the game, and it changes a lot of stuff. I mean, right now, if you play double DPS without invulnerability belt, people just like wonder what on earth you're doing. And I know Beckinsale, who's one of the best warlocks on NA, literally last week he finally changed to the belt and engy, so he's going to be angry with these changes. But the moment he got it, he realized like, okay, I've been missing out this entire time. This is way easier with the belt. So, like, it completely changes so many things. Especially Skull. For people that don't know, Lux and Druids were abusing Skull super, super hard. Every Warlock would run in to avoid getting sapped and such versus Rogues. Literally just run in, Skull with shield, and just run straight at you. And you're like, well, what can I do now? He's Skulled. And every Druid, if they knew you were going to blind them, they would Trinket and then Skull. And then you literally have to wait. It literally was getting to the stage where if you wanted to be quick, you either have to be instant, or if you're not that very instant, you have to wait and see if the skull hit, and then you can blind after the skull. It got to like starting to be a really dumb meta where you had to watch for skull like all the time.
Yeah, that's at the highest level. That's like 2,500 plus, like in twos and stuff. I mean, maybe even 24 that you start seeing a lot of that. It's definitely a nerf to like paladins who are already bad. The one that's the most confusing for me here is the Netomatic projector. I guess it's kind of like a sweeping thing of like, okay, let's just not allow almost any engy in the arena.
Yeah,
because the Netomatic projector I don't think was particularly
they don't have
problem.
goggles on this list.
Yeah, they don't have like the active goggles or anything like that. But the Netomatic projector I think is just like, I don't think it was a big problem. I think hunters were already in a state where it's like, if they're using this, then they aren't like a drain comp anyway. I don't know of your experience with the Netomatic projector, but I don't think it's really. I don't think I've seen this item be a problem outside of just really. I don't want to call them cheesy, but alternative Zug strategies
exactly,
that hunters would implement as BM. So I didn't think it was a problem, but I don't know. What's your take on this?
Yeah, I think I never really had any issues with it, even though it was like sometimes cheesy. Because honestly, the backfire rate on these Netomatics is horrible. So you were taking a big risk half the time you click on this thing. Like for people that don't know, Netomatic has different options even when it backfires. Sometimes it'll root you. Sometimes it'll root you and the opponent next to each other. It will like pull you together and then root you. And the backfire rate on Netomatic is really high. It's like 30% or something. So it's also super risky.
And it had different backfires too. Like it has the one where it nets you, it has the one where it pulls you into them in melee range. Right? There's different backfires for the Netomatic to my knowledge.
Yeah. But yeah, they didn't include the goggles though, which is interesting. So for people that don't know, there's goggles that if you're human side and you're rogue with goggles and perception, it's so broken you can literally pop the goggles and perception and you see half of the map. So you pick one side of the map and you will see everyone in that half, and hopefully your enemy stealth opponents are in that half because you just got a free opener on them basically.
Yeah,
is what it was. It's actually super broken, but like it's surprising they didn't include that in the changes. If they included Netomatic, which I think is a much more minor thing that affects Arena versus Hypervision.
For the other items, or I guess for the engineering items that are listed, let me find this plugin post again. I have like 20 tabs open. Okay. For the other items that are listed, these are ones that have, or at least the engineering ones, have a backfire to them. So you'd sometimes screw yourself over. But the goggles don't have a backfire. It's just a conscious choice of, I want more stealth detection that doesn't guarantee you a win, obviously, because you have to pick like the right side of the arena to find the guy, or if he's hiding in the back or thinks you're human or whatever. He can avoid it for a bit, but you are sacrificing the stats on it because there's no HP on it, so you're losing like 500 HP. There's no meta gem, right? You're losing out on that, so you can't use sure-footed with them. You have to use minor speed on boots. So there's like a trade-off to doing this for sure, but I think that trade-off is something that they like because, in my opinion, that's a choice, right? Because if there's times where I play human and I play with the goggles, if I don't find the guy, I feel like I'm now at a disadvantage, because if I don't find them with perception and the active goggles, if they're using the regular goggles, then they'll find me first every time.
Yeah, because they have the little bit of stealth advantage on you now.
They have
down.
The extra stealth. Yeah, exactly. My active is down, so I have nothing outside of that active, and the stats on it are pretty weak. So I feel like it's not that big of a problem if people play around it. And it's one of those things where if you run into this team one time, you know that person has goggles and you'll play differently the next time you fight them. And I think that's something that they are trying to balance around a little more, is that level of play where you're running into the same people. Because at the lower level, I can tell you, if you run into the same person twice, they're probably going to do the same thing and you're just going to win. As you get higher and higher, people play very differently based on like what you've shown them before, especially if you're a cheesy composition of some kind.
I will tell you guys now that there's a warrior druid team in like the 2k to 2.4k bracket that is really good versus rogue locks only, because me and Reality run into those guys constantly all day every day, And I don't know, I guess they're stuck in that bracket versus other teams, but versus us, they've had so much training that like the meta they've developed, they've actually gotten so good at adapting and changing the strategy up because they know exactly what me and Riali want to do every time. It's actually fascinating.
Are you like cheap shot, kidney shot on Druid into did you dot him up at all or no?
Yeah. So basically like the strategy for Roguelock into Warrior Druid is I run past the warrior, try to sap him if I can, help the lock get some distance and everything.
Get Zerker Rage out so he can't do that on a fear later,
Yeah. And then I basically cheap the druid, gouge if I need to buy time, kidney, and basically when I kidney, I swap over to the warrior, and then the warrior gets quelled, and if the warrior trinkets the quell, I cheap the warrior. So this is like a period where both characters on the enemy team are CC'd at the same time. So then the fear gets swapped to the druid, and he's forced to basically trinket that, and then I blind, and then it's just GG. The druid's just stuck in a blind with no trinket, and I can sap him off that basically. Yeah. But if the warrior team can interrupt that fear somehow or mess up that entire sequence, then they can like turn it around sometimes. So it comes down to this whole sequence, and versus a non-experienced warrior druid team, they just get farmed really hard by that. But versus an experienced one that knows what we're trying to do, they'll do weird stuff. They'll do like weird trinkets shenanigans. They'll do stuff at really weird timings to kind of like throw you off.
Do they ever intervene the blind?
Oh, they do. They know the blind's coming, and they know like all the stuff's coming. So you gotta adapt and be like, okay, he's gonna intervene. And then with the whole skull meta, you have to wait for the skull because it was an interesting meta that developed. But it's actually as Chad is saying, I feel these changes, going back to these changes, it actually makes, for example, Roguelock stronger. I think it actually legitimately makes Roguelock stronger because there was like so much cheese prevention being taken out, or like just death prevention from the stupid healers that would always pop belt. Honestly, it's I'm surprised they didn't do more changes to it though, because on top of these changes, I think what they should have done is, I don't know if you caught it, where they had the wrong values on PTR, where everything was like season 4 prices or something. Like the prices of everything was half the price of arena gear and like honor gear, and they had season 2 gear for honor, and all the arena prices for season 3 were half price. And everyone at first was like, wait, is this like a purpose change? Like, did they do this on purpose, or is this an accident? And they posted on the forums, it's an accident. They didn't mean to do this. But everyone who actually plays arena and PvPs was actually thinking, man, they should just keep this. Because the actual people that PvP, all they want is more people to PvP, because they don't want the PvP scene to die. They want more active queues. They want more people playing the game. And it's actually good for the state of PvP.
I definitely think like increasing the amount of honor you get, and then allowing like season 1 or season 2 gear to be purchasable with honor would make me play the game more on my warrior, because my warrior's prot, and so I'm really behind on like everything because I didn't get like arena points for most of my stuff in the first 2 seasons. But it's like feels impossible to catch up now. But if there was like more honor that could flow in, I would feel like I could play multiple characters. I could even play this character and gear it up when I didn't have interest in PvP, because it feels like this cascading effect of, if you didn't play in season 1 when everybody else was under geared, now you have this big old thing where you just got to play 5s. You've got to play shit stomp 5s where you just get shit stomped every game and have like 1000 CR, and then just do that for a few weeks. Then eventually you'll have some pieces. And that's how it goes. So it feels like if they were able to like expedite this process or expedite this process of where people can actually get gear to PvP, the end game of PvP is to play arena, right? BGs are not your end game. BGs are your grind to get to the end game. BGs are the equivalent of the rep grind you do for like your heroics and shit to get attuned to the PvE shit before. And because they remove like attunements for a few things or made it easier, it should be like that. They should definitely make it easier to get into the arena so that there's more people in the flow, or like in the system.
Yeah, like so, I know that honor can buy the season 1 items coming up soon, very shortly. But man, they should just let people get the season 2 items. I don't think any PvP
It should be faster too.
Yeah, like make it faster, give them the gear. Because I think they're almost PvP is stuck in this weird thing where it was designed to be a certain way back in the day. But now people don't do PvP the same. PvP is literally like a separate game to PvP is. They treat it as like, oh, okay, well, you know, all this annoying honor stuff and all this like getting the gear and such. They don't actually care about that stuff that much. It's fun for some of them, but most of them they just want a PvP. They just want to play arena. They just want to play with their friends. The gearing up process, the MMO aspect of it, that Blizzard is sometimes trying to preserve, the grindy part. A lot of them don't actually care about that or don't have no appeal for that, and it actually hurts the PvP scene a lot of times.
And the prestige is kind of gone of having like 2K or 2200, because back in the day it was like if somebody had 2K and they had shoulders, it was like impressive because there weren't actually that many people above 2K. Now it's like relatively easy to get weapons, to get your shoulders as well if you're actually trying and have the gear. So the prestige of that is kind of gone. Seeing somebody with the shoulders, oh cool. So just letting people get the gear so that they can actually compete, I think is something that they should speed up in some way. Because I don't think anybody who's a PvPer sits there and goes, no, don't let these people have access to this gear that I ground out so that they can compete. It's like, I'm pretty sure most PvPers are like, yeah, just let everybody compete so that we can have more people in the system, in circulation. So I definitely feel like it's a mistake to not make it more accessible.
Yeah, the accessibility is really high. I mean, man, I can talk about
really high,
I can talk about accessibility all day because I feel like it's the biggest issue. Literally, the biggest issue of PvP is how hard it is to get into it. And man, we can talk about the end of season stuff as well, where it's actually so hard to breach this gap for people that want to get to Glad and rank 1 level, but they're not quite there yet. There's this gap you have to jump where I was trying to explain in my chat, and I was talking to Jake and Bake, another IRL streamer for people that don't know, who's also plays a rogue, and we're both kind of in the similar scenarios where we're good enough to get to like that 2K, 2.4K mark, but not good enough to breach that gap to Glad yet. And we both ran into this issue where the people that we can play with who are in that Glad and rank 1 range, they kind of play with us as a favor to help us out from time to time and such, to kind of tutor us. And really, they during the last week or two of the season or whatever, they're really busy. They don't really have as much time to dedicate to like helping us as much. So for us, what we have to do is we have to try to find someone that's like 2K, 2.4K like us, who will grind out that last gap to get into that Glad range and rank 1. Because once you're a Glad and rank 1 player, there's a lot of other Glad and rank 1 players who will just queue with you for fun. Because they don't have to think about like tutoring you or teaching you or anything. They're just going to get good games with you for fun. But to get to that stage, it requires you finding like this unicorn event where you find that 2 to 2.4K level player who wants to actively get better, who has the time to dedicate to getting better, because it's a grind. You got to grind a lot of games. You got to vodru. You got to figure out what you're doing wrong. And I feel like a lot of people in that 2 to 2.4K bracket, all the people that aren't Glad that want to be Glad, they're usually not there. Usually not because of a lack of skill necessarily, but a lack of time. A lack of ability to actually play arena the way they want to play, I think is a good way to say it. It's the way I described it to chat is that it takes me like 2 to 3 hours of prepping and planning to get 1 hour of actual arena time, because I spend 2 hours just trying to find partners, trying to schedule in the partners. Oh, and then the partner can't make it, I gotta line up another partner. And then if that partner ends up quitting, which is happening a lot in WoW lately, you gotta find a whole nother person who's willing to grind up with you. It is like a headache trying to actually get good arena games if you're not in that like top bracket crowd yet.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it is with a lot of games though. Like the top bracket crowd only takes in the people that have like shown that potential, right? So it's just it's how it is at the highest level, right?
I think the tricky part is that for like for like another game, like to use League of Legends as example, if you wanted to grind it out, you literally just like, oh, I got 2 hours to play solo queue. Okay, I'm gonna play solo queue for 2 hours. Whereas in WoW, it's almost like you got, yeah, like Chad is saying, it's dating. You gotta schedule the date with your play partner. You gotta do all this other stuff. It's almost like there's all these chores involved for you to actually.
And then
be able to
eventually you dump them for a better player.
Yeah, eventually on the last week of the season, you dump your roguelike
You're
partner.
dating them.
And you find
really
a
just
mage
stepping stone
to do it instead.
to the hotter partner.
But yeah, man, sometimes I wish there was, oh God, I was telling chat, God, I'm starting to sound like Savix, where I'm like, can we please have solo queue so I can just like queue up and get like good arena games sometimes? I just want like quality games without having to spend so much effort and time into planning to get the quality games.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
Solo
How did the end of your season go, by the way? Did you do anything, or did you just try to chill?
I didn't really do anything. I just stocked arena points. I have like 5k points on 2 characters. So my shaman, because we transferred servers, so basically what happened was my shaman's team was like 2305s, and we transferred servers, so we had to abandon that team, and then we never remade the team. So we never like picked it back up. So I really didn't do much arena wise, in all honesty. Like, because transferring servers and having to remake all your teams is kind of meh. Plus, playing all the characters I do now is like really hard to find time to play with 5 people. So
yeah, that's what I found as well. Is trying to do PvE and PvP is actually really hard. That's why the best PvP is a lot of them do not PvE. It's very rare that a lot of them actually do proper PvEing. Most of them literally only like do GDKPs or something for the like one item they won, and they usually buy that with like boost gold.
Yeah, I was talking.
To do it.
I was actually talking to Chanimal yesterday because he actually I tanked for him yesterday in Who, because he's normally raid 3, and I'm raid 2, and so I tanked for him yesterday, and I was like, he's actually like one of the first like PvPers I've met that's like actually really good at PvE. Granted, or naturally good. There are a few, but he definitely like finds it fun to do PvE, and he actually plays Affliction Lock too, which is a little weird to enjoy Affliction Lock, but he like found all the pluses in it and stuff, right? He was like, oh yeah, I have like longer range on Seed.
Oh yeah. As Chan is saying, Chan is an android. Chan is the same guy who will enjoy playing Lock Druid versus Lock Druid for like a 2-hour match, and he will find that enjoyable to find like the timing windows and all this other nonsense. There's a reason he's so good at the game.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah.
But it was fun playing with him, because you can definitely tell he's like a player who likes to push some limits, you know, so likes to figure things out on the fly and challenge himself. That's the thing, is you can't really enjoy PvE in WoW if you're just going through the motions. You have to like constantly challenge yourself to do things, or challenge other people in your raid to do things. So like, for example, like if somebody's trying to DPS harder, it makes me have to tank harder, right? It makes me have to think about how I'm going to engage this pack. How am I going to get in there faster so I can get my consecrate down a little earlier? Am I using Sapper on this one, Super Sapper on next one, Iron Bomb on the one after that, Wings on the one after that, and then I'm using like Trinket on the one after that, and then I'm back to Fell Iron Bomb, back to Super Sapper, back to Sapper, that type of thing, and just alternating. So figuring out ways to challenge yourself is, I think, really important when it comes to PvE.
But I mean, speaking of Chanimal, he's probably going to be walking away with 5k soon from this arena tournament if he's going to be participating. Let me see, where is it? Okay, so for people who don't know, there's a $100,000 invitation. Well, not invitation. They got to qualify and all that, but there's a $100,000 TBC arena tournament coming out. 50,000 per region, so 50,000 NA, 50,000 EU. So I think the prize pool breaks down into something like 5,000 something per person in a 3s team. So first place is $17,000. So that's like 5 to 6k per person in a 3s team. And it's the first time I've seen Blizzard actually put a decent chunk of money towards an arena tournament, because the previous ones was basically nothing. It was basically nothing. And this one is actually, I mean, I know it's $5,000 isn't that much for being the number one player at something in a game this big, but it's more commitment that Blizzard has ever done for Anything else in TBC as far as your tournaments before that?
It's because like if you look at like the other things they've done, it's like the Arena World Championship is like a $300,000 prize pool. The Mythic Dungeon Invitational is like 210,000, and this is 100,000. I feel like one of the things that they miss out on is a lot of games have moved to crowdfunding. I know there was like some drama around like Blizzard pocketing some money because of crowdfunding stuff that really didn't go over well. But they can like, somebody was saying stuff to me where they were like, there's so many missed monetization opportunities, and coming from like an esports background, this stuff really resonated with me where I was like, you could make so much money if you actually had like teams, like let's say like Cloud9 or anything like that. Let's say you could go into the store and you could buy a Cloud9 tabard, right? You could buy a tabard, just a cosmetic thing, for a team that you liked or supported, or even a player, right? Like I could go get the Magnus in-game jersey.
I mean, that's literally a play out of like the Riot Games book, right? With the the emotes and things for you can do for the like SKT and TSM and like the badges you can display on your profile. I still have like on my NA account like a season 2 TSM badge thing that you could only get during the World Championship at that period of time.
Yeah, and I think there's things like that you could do. People were talking about like you could have arena flags on your back be different. Like you could have a teams, stuff like that. I know it's like it would have to be universal for whatever team you're on or whatever. So yeah.
Well, I mean, the annoying thing about talking about something about potential things they could do to improve PvP and such is that every time you go down this rabbit hole, you just get depressed because Blizzard never does any of these things. There's a big list of things that you know Blizzard could do, but you also know in your heart that Blizzard doesn't really care and they're not going to do those things pretty much ever. So it's just like,
they definitely need to, in my opinion, if they want this to be, I think there was like something else too, where isn't this like all on YouTube or something? They have like some YouTube deal.
Oh yeah. They changed they took everything off Twitch, I think. Yeah, they have a YouTube deal to put all the streams on YouTube, I think. Something like that.
Yeah. So it's all on YouTube, right? So it's little Monka in that regard. I feel like they must have made some decent amount of money off of that, but then they just throw everything up there and it's kind of like an afterthought.
Yeah. I mean, did you see the last tournament they did for TBC?
Yeah, I think I did.
Wait, you actually did the 5s 20?
Yeah, because Azale was in there and then he came over.
Okay, yeah. Because I tried to go watch that. I couldn't even go watch it because the VODs. Well, they actually did it on Twitch that time, and the VODs.
They did it on some other channel that was like, I forgot what it was. It was like GCD TV or something.
Yeah, something like that. But you couldn't even watch the VOD because it was subscribed to watch the VOD. So at that point, I was like, I just don't care anymore. I'm not subscribing for a VOD for a tournament that barely got any views, and that I can't even see any information about. So I just gave up. But yeah, you couldn't even watch the VOD without subscribing to like a random Twitch channel. It wasn't even like subscribing to the WoW channel. It was just like a random tournament account that you'd have to subscribe to. But yeah, I don't know, man. I hope this is gonna be interesting. I'm curious to see who they're gonna have like commentating and doing all this stuff. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. Anyway, did you see all the PvP final week shenanigans though? I got a good laugh out of that.
I did not. I just know that my friend who was in Glad panicked, played 10 games and like lost them all, so he fell out of Glad.
No.
So he was in Glad range too, and then he panicked and played 10 games because he thought the cap was going to keep going up.
I know a lot of people that did that stuff. I don't know if Tom Cruise is still in the chat, but he plays Rogue and he was safe rank 1. They queued up and dropped out of safe rank 1. Unfortunately, rough days, man. He had to sit. But I mean that's why final days are literally so hype. Is because of all stuff like this. I was watching Chan literally gatekeep people because he needed so to lead up into like why so many people were grinding up teams and such in the last week. So for people that don't know, is that Paimon, one of the most prolific PvPers on the NA scene, with many accounts and many characters, and who played with literally almost everyone in the rank 1/Glad bracket at one point in time, got banned for like 2 years. And every account he touched or every team he touched was also disqualified. So with 2 weeks going into the final season, literally like must be half or more of all these Glad and Rank 1 teams were just suddenly disqualified. So everyone had to just suddenly grind out teams again. Which is why you have guys like Chan and such who literally are they were literally sitting at 3K MMR, but his actual rating is 2K, and he had to grind all the way up at 3K MMR, just gatekeeping everyone for those final weeks. And poor Zico, man, I was actually watching the last games on Chan's stream, literally just queuing into arena even though he's safe, and just gatekeeping the hell out of every other threes team.
Yeah, just for fun?
Yeah, just for fun. They're literally like already 3K plus safe rank 1 for threes, and they're just queuing for fun into poor Zico trying to push at the last minute. And but I mean, that's the best content. But what came about? Did you see all the Payo drama from that?
No, I did not.
Okay, so for people that don't know, what happened is that Payo, he doesn't really play arena much. He's not like a serious. If you watch a Payo stream, he's not like the serious arena player. He likes to have fun, but he got Snuts and a few other high skill players to basically carry him in threes on the last day or last 2 days or whatever it was to a Glad title, basically. So they did the standard thing where they carry you to 2400 and then you bring in someone else and they boost the team up another 100. So he got his Glad mount that way. And there's these threads popping up. There was one thread that says, "Oh, Payo got boosted to Glad with real life money," which, by the way, I highly doubt this. There's no way. People have to understand that one, Payo's really entertaining to play with. If you've ever actually played with Payo, and you're a fellow streamer and you want to make really good stream content, you play with Payo. Because he will make it entertaining. If anyone watched Snut stream that entire stream, or you haven't watched it, I recommend you go watch the VOD, because it is clip after clip after clip of some of the most hilarious content you will ever see to do with Arena. If you don't laugh until you're almost crying watching these clips, then I don't know what is for you, because it is highly entertaining content. It is amazing content, and that is why guys like Snuts will play with Payo. Like, not just because they're like fellow streamers, and that's part of it. They're fellow streamers helping out another streamer, but also because Payo's hilarious. He's actually hilarious to. Oh, okay. We'll play one clip. We'll play one clip for people. That's a good clip actually. That Menak linked in the chat. This is a good clip. Have you seen any of these clips, Zirene?
No, I have not.
Oh my god! It is literally clip champ after clip champ with the whole Payo thing. Okay, let's turn this up.
Blind him.
Yeah. He sees me, lock me.
It's fine. We can win. I swear we can win. Can you stop it, Payo, please?
Yeah. Hey, someone break the blind. I don't
Get it.
So if you didn't see that, guys, it's literally Payo blinding and then breaking his own blind and then saying, "Hey guys, someone broke the blind."
Somebody broke it.
It's literally someone. He's literally blinding, and it's clip after clip of stuff like this. There's one where Snuts is just yelling at him, "Payo, please blind! Payo, please blind!" And Payo's like running the opposite direction, and then like, I don't know how it happened, but he's literally running in circles on the opposite side of the guy of the pillar that he's trying to blind. And it's just, and at the end of the day, you see like there's so many clips of just Snuts just losing his mind, and S tier content, actual S tier content, guys. Like all these clips, and so go back to the actual Payo topic and everything. Yeah, I don't think he got actually boosted for real life money and such. And I don't know, he's getting accused of it. It does bring about the question of, should someone be able to do this? I don't think any players would say like the 100 rating boost thing is something that people should be able to do. But Blizzard's never done anything about it. We already had this problem in the last season where we said they really got to stop letting people boost this 100 rating plus thing at the end of the season, where you just bring someone else in and play 100 rating. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, he's not breaking any rules, so I don't think there's anything you can really go at Payo for this. And honestly, this entire thread has no proof anyway. It's literally just some random guy coming in and saying, oh, Payo must be paying real life money to have his friend boost him like that. Very entertaining though, guys. If you want to have some time, it's even better if you watch it from Payo's point of view, because you see him just scrambling.
I think people are just going to start calling him Payo with a capital P-A-Y. Right? P-A-Y-O.
But yeah, I mean, I do know that it
proof.
does bring about the whole thing that like people do get annoyed when they see people getting boosted up, and it does take away slots from the bracket and such from other people. So I do understand they get frustrated for that, because for me, someone actually came in my chat, I think it was yesterday or the day before, when I was doing PTR, and they were asking, hey, like as someone who's like in that 2 to 2.4k bracket, who's someone who get pushed down by a Payo getting boosted up, how do you feel about that? And at least for me personally, I can understand the people that get upset, but I think it's just it depends on the individual person's mindset. For me, I always look at it as thinking, well, I mean, I can't control what other people are doing, but I can just be a better player. And then if I'm a better player, it doesn't matter if someone's getting boosted. I just win a couple more games and be better. But yeah, at least that's the way I've always looked at it. Is like there's nothing much I can do with it unless Blizzard actually steps in and stops this, which honestly I feel like they should. Speaking of which, they didn't do anything about the 3K problem. And honestly, Blizzard should get some flack for that, because for people that don't know, we mentioned it last podcast, but MMR in PvP is capped at 3K. And that's a major problem, because when you get to the end of season, what was happening is not only was rank 1 at this weird spot where a lot of people were tied at 31.26, which is the highest rating you can earn when MMR is capped at 3K, but the Gladiator bracket for 2s pushes up into like that rank 1 range-ish, almost, depending on how many people are queuing at the time. So it started becoming to the point where to get Glad, you would actually be running into rank 1 players sometimes, and it would make it like super tough on the people. A lot of people started doing even more Q sniping and dodging and such than they normally do, because now not only are you trying to get the favorable matchup, you also have to try to not get like just destroyed by the rank 1 player who's for some reason also playing in the Glad MMR range. So it causes a lot of issues, to the point where I'd almost say like, man, if you earn Glad this season, you in 2s, you actually kind of definitely earned it, because you had to play against rank 1 players for your Glad towards the end there.
Yeah, if you earned Glad in 2s, you pretty much had it merciless Glad.
Yeah, it's actually hard. The difference between the rating of a high-end like Glad and a rank 1 is not much, man. It's literally, I think Glad was what, like 28-ish, 28, 15, 50 or something, but and then rank 1 is literally what, like a 150 or so, something above that. I think it was something like that. Like rank 1 was 150 rating above that only, because they were all stuck at that 3K MMR, so they couldn't go anywhere. So the bracket got collapsed like that. But I mean, these are all kind of things where you come back and think, man, Blizzard, when you don't do anything about these problems, it just shows that you don't care about the PvP scene that much. And then you get sad.
The issue with PvP is at the highest level and the lowest level. The highest level, obviously, there's constraints, right? Like we're talking about like rating and all that shit. And then at the lowest level, it's the entry, right? Yeah. So you need to balance around the highest, but also make it easier to get in. So that's my take on it for what they need to do.
Yeah, they got to do a lot of stuff there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, anyway, we've been going on about the PvP stuff for a while. We do have we have so much. We have so many topics today, actually. I've never been so...
Next one!
Yeah, on to the next one. Did you see the gold bans?
No.
Okay, so I think this Reddit thread is a little bit exaggerated. I don't think it's half of Jom Gabar that got banned, but a lot of people did get banned recently. So Blizzard is actually pushing the thing that they said before, where they were going to start banning more people for buying gold and for longer periods of time. So a lot of people now are getting banned for buying gold, and also for 2 weeks instead of the usual. Before it was like a 3-day slap on the wrist, but now it's actually two weeks ish is that you get banned for. So I feel like though there's a lot of people celebrating and saying, yeah, good on these filthy gold bars for getting banned and such. But at the end of the day, whether I like the gold buying or not, I feel it's also an inherent problem in the game that people feel so needed to buy the gold because there's some just straight up issues with the raiding scene where the cost of raiding still is an issue, even though they said they knew that was a problem going into TBC. They saw the issues in Naxxramas, but there's still that cost issue, especially if you're melee, where you're spending a lot of gold every week still to raid. And I feel like the reason why they might want to ban the gold bars and push people, they're trying to push people to saying, hey, you can't do that. You got to play the game and go farm your gold to go do this other thing. But the game has kind of changed to the point where back in the day, you didn't need to farm this many consumables. You didn't need to do quite this much crazy amount. You're not expected to bring like 10, 15, 20 haste pots to every raid back in the day. So like there wasn't this burden on the player. But now there is this burden on a lot of the players to come prepared to every raid, scrolls, haste pots, all your standard consumables. And going into TBC, there was almost like that little promise that said, hey guys, don't worry. We heard you with Naxxramas. Don't worry, you guys. We're getting rid of like the buffing. You guys won't have to get the buffs anymore. And there's this whole revamp of the consumable system so that there's only like a flask and there's only like one food buff and one other buff. And it was almost like everyone was really hyped about, oh yeah, raiding's gonna be a lot less tedious, but raiding's still tedious on the consumable front. It's still like there's still a lot of stuff you gotta prep.
And Marks of the Illidari will make it so you don't have to get flasks, right? That helps like 3 classes. Yeah, honestly.
Yeah, so there's still the burn, and like Chad's saying, it is a player created problem, but
scrolls.
It does come down to at this point in time. There's a lot of good YouTube videos about this if people want to go look at it, but to some level, it's up to the game developers these days to also control what the player can do. I guess a good way to put it is it's up to the game developers to control how the players can ruin their fun. Basically, to stop the players, protect themselves from ruining the game and min-maxing the fun out of the game to a certain level. So
yeah, you have to save them from themselves, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Like the scroll thing too is just so funny to me. I feel like scrolls are an overlooked relic that for some reason is still in the game. So,
but I mean, man, I'm really sad about like how PTR was handled this time around. I feel it's
with no warning that it was going to come up.
Can we get some proper PTR handling? Because literally, if you didn't do PTR as soon as it came up, like this entire length of this weird PTR testing thing, every time they would bring it up and take it down, bring it up and taking down and such. But yeah, I mean, the frustrating thing about how they handled PTR this time was that it was just like so frantic in that, if anything, they've just given the hardcore guilds even more of an advantage now. If their goal was to not let the guilds use it as like a training ground and such for their raid, they've just only furthered the distance between the other guilds and the hardcore guilds now. Because if you look at the timing of this PTR, even this time around, you realize that average guilds cannot even get to have a proper like 3 days of raiding on PTR right now, because unless they happen to like coincide with the timing of PTR over the weekend. So if you're like a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday guild, which is what a lot of guilds are, they raid the Tuesday at least, and then they do other days throughout the week. If you could have gotten this week, you got the Tuesday raid in. Wednesday, you couldn't raid because for people that don't know, there were massive login issues on PTR yesterday. So literally all the guilds were stuck in like 500-man queues or 200-person queues. And then when you got to 1, it would disconnect like 90% of people. So you couldn't do PTR until really late yesterday, after a lot of the dad guilds and non-crazy hardcore guilds had gone to sleep. And today, they took it down. So if you were like an average guild waiting for like, oh, we'll just wait for our raid days to do PTR. Yeah, good luck with that, because you probably only got Tuesday in, and that's it. So
yeah. So how do you want to do this? You want to give everybody your PTR knowledge?
Yeah. Well, I mean that's the thing, right? Is that now it's like this weird thing where it's it's a divide. And I know like people in chat are saying like, oh, PTR should be up for less time, which I actually agree. I think that's fine if they want to do PTR less. It's just like the frantic nature of how they did it that made it weird. That made it really, really weird. But I assume you did a ton of PTR, right, Zirene? Like how many times did you clear?
I cleared Hyjal twice and BT 4 times, and then other times I didn't clear all of BT, but I did like up to Mother like 3 more times. So a lot of random PTR. I got to do it on Prop Paladin and Ellie Shaman and Rogue. I didn't get to do it on my Prop Warrior ever. But.
Yeah. Oh, well, I know I'm going to be firing up your VOD at a later time to check out the last few buzzers. Cause I never did like a full BT. I did like a whole bunch of half BTs, but never a full BT. Because as people might not know, it's a little bit hard to get into a raid as a rogue on PTR. Even on PTR, man, they don't want you. They do not want you.
What you should have done is you should have just played a Resto Shaman and been like, hi, no. Hey, I can play this. So just press chain heal, lay totems. And then, have you got any character you want on PTR? Just make it, right? Yeah. Nobody wants rogues, huh?
Yeah, unfortunate times. I mean, we can talk about how what are your thoughts on Black Temple and such after having a whole bunch of times? Because from the small amount of stuff I did do on Black Temple, it felt super easy. Like,
it's too easy.
Stupidly easy, even like really easy.
In my opinion, it is too easy. I started making a document of proposed changes of what I would change. Literally, T5 is harder on release than BT and Hyjal. And the thing is like these encounters were made before people could come up with gimmicks. Now it's like there's gimmicks fucking galore. Like for Nagentis, what speedrun guilds are going to do is every shaman's going to wear a frost jewel crafting neck. And then before you pop the bubble, everybody just presses their frost neck. And then you pop bubble. It's like go frost necks, pop bubble. Nobody's ever going to die, right? And you can pop it as soon as you want, and you don't have to wait to top people.
I didn't even do that because it was so easy. You don't even need to do that.
But it's like
it's even easier now with that. Yeah.
Instead of waiting to top people, you're just like frost neck, boom, and you don't have to wait to like top people or heal them or anything like that. So there's a lot of stuff there that I think like people will do to push it, and I don't think you need to make that like required. Obviously, you can make the encounter harder, like whether it's damage or HP or whatever. But I just feel like a lot of fights felt like tank and spank at the end of the day. Shade of Akama was always a joke. It was not hard ever. And that's the thing too, is there aren't really DPS races in a T6 at all. There's like one DPS race, and that's like Reliquary. Everything else is like, and I guess there's the Illidan DPS race now. That's like a player made one to avoid the Warlock.
To avoid the Warlock, yeah.
All of my Illidan kills, we did not see the Warlock phase.
Yeah, that's what my GM was saying as well, because he was doing a whole bunch of clears and like prepping and such, and then the Warlock's like, hey, do we need to prep our stuff? And he just says, nah, it doesn't look like anyone's even doing that phase. You just bypass the entire phase.
Yeah, which to me, I was like, okay, that's immediately something that would make the encounter harder. Like if you wanted to make Illidan harder, I would propose like 3 changes. The first one would be the fact that the parasites have 4k HP and they're stunnable. I would make them unCCable, and I'd give them like 25k, maybe even 30k HP. I'd actually make them a mechanic that if they're targeting somebody, you have to run from, because there's like no threat from these things, right? They just die instantaneously, right? You should just make those things have more HP. In fact, maybe even make them have a lot more HP, like maybe 100k or something. And then give Illidan more HP, make him go into the demon phase faster instead of waiting. Make the the animation where he like kneels to the ground half the fight, or like I guess like a good 20 seconds of the fight, Illidan just sits there on one knee, whether he's inside of a trap or he's changing phases into the demon phase. So Like we got Illidan down to like 19% or something before he even did the AoE stun on everybody, because he was changing to get into his demon form, had to go through that whole animation, then turn into demon, then get back down on his knee and transition back, and then he did the thing where he stuns everybody and goes into his final phase, and he was at 19%. It's like, you just take those out. Like, those things are fat. Those things are good, right? So just make sure. I feel like making the encounters where you have to experience the mechanics better, right? So I think that it's very, very I guess damage is higher now, and I feel like people need to compensate for that mechanics wise and HP pool wise. Like, encounters are way too easy. The hardest encounter in T6 is hands down Illidari Council, and that's just because there's RNG where flame strikes and blizzards are going. Right? That's it. So yeah. Remember that Black Temple wasn't released with everyone being T5 geared, just like in Classic? Yes. But the reality of the situation is now they are. So yeah, everybody's BIS geared. Everybody's been killing. I mean, they also nerfed P2. It grinds my gears that it's too easy. Because it's just going to make people lose interest in the game at the highest level. And it's just going to be going through the motions, right? Like, there wasn't really a particular challenge.
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of worried about with like this phase as well, is that in Classic originally, Black Wing Lair was when we saw kind of Classic start to decline. It was the first time you started to see a lot of people lose interest and decline and such. It was at that Black Temple when it peaked, when Classic was literally at the peak of the hype and excitement and everything, and then people started quitting and it started tapering off a lot. But this time around in TBC, I feel like there's a lot of people who are in it to kill Illidan and then they're out. It feels like there's a lot of people who are in it to like just see like phase 3 and kill Illidan and get like the Illidan experience and such, and they might be out. So I am a little bit worried to see what the drop off is going to be for after this phase once it's all beaten, and how long people can sustain interest in continuing to raid TBC and such. Because like you said, a lot of the hardcores are gonna find this super easy. If my because I'm not doing hardcore raiding as much anymore. I'm only playing in my like semi-hardcore guild right now for PvE. So I stopped my other raids, and even there we're finding like, man, all these fights are just they're a joke. They're really easy.
I don't envy the position of the designers if they are going to change things, because in my opinion, it's not just going to be HP buffs and things like that. I think additional mechanics should be fine. Like adding additional mechanics to things and figuring out what those mechanics should be, I don't think would be like, it would definitely add more to the encounters and make them harder, especially on launch day, because the fact that one of the big things that stopped people from progressing was always figuring out what bosses do. Because back in the day, DBM wasn't updated immediately so that you had all of your timers and everything. You had to I remember doing Chromagus and having to have a stopwatch and figure out how often he does his breaths and like what each breath does. So like you spend wipes figuring out what things do. So I feel like it's a really big deal to add new things, throw people off. It'll make it harder. And I honestly feel like the feeling of trying to progress through something is kind of gone. And the expectation that you clear everything is there now. And it's a little disheartening because it's on farm immediately, right? And I personally do want that challenge. Now, Blizzard could just say, hey, if you want a challenge, go play private servers. That's not our game. And I get that. They don't have to cater to me. They don't have to. They definitely should cater to their large fan base. But I feel like their large fan base with BT is already experiencing this and going, this is really easy. Like the hardest bosses in there are Reliquary of Souls and Reliquary of Souls. Gurthogg is a little hard to like pug. And then Mother is just gear dependent, and then Illidari Council. And those are like the hardest things. Archimond isn't even hard, and it's just all very, very easy. So yeah, they're not really here for the old progression game. Yeah, and that's what it feels like. And it just, I don't know, it feels bad to me because I don't get that feeling of progression. And because like T5, I even had that feeling, even though like my guild cleared T5 very quickly in like like think like top 10, top 15 in the world or something like that for clearing, and it just didn't. It felt easier to do BT and Hyjal than that. So I'm not as excited for this tier as I thought I would be, and that's a little sad.
Yeah.
Just a little sad.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like you said, it's tricky being the designer because they don't want it. I feel they don't want it to be like last phase to that level where it just the dad guilds got crushed on Vash and such. But they do want it harder than it is now. But at the same time, I also don't know, man, do they even have the time to do anything? It feels like anytime I look at what Blizzard's doing, it feels like they always rush to try to do stuff with a really small team that just doesn't have the time to do like 90% of the changes that they actually, like even if they want to do them, it feels like they don't have the time to do them.
Not excited to speedrun. I am excited to speedrun, actually. That's the only thing I'm looking forward to in BT, because it once again feels like Nax, where everything is very easy and you just breeze through it. Like I feel no, I'm not really in danger as a prop paladin in T5 of dying at any point during trash. Like I can just tank everything and the stuff doesn't hit hard at all. So there's like a few mobs, and I was gonna say this: the way to add artificial difficulty to things that people can't deal with is bullshit mechanics. And that's why I said I don't envy the position of the designers, because in my opinion, bullshit mechanics are things like random mind controls, like Kael'thas, like the Lady Vaj, right? The reason that like Kael'thas was hard is because tank threat would drop. The reason Vaj was hard is undispellable mind controls with no CC. These are, in my opinion, bullshit RNG mechanics that artificially make a fight harder every week to week because you don't know exactly what's going to happen. Better mechanics are things where when you fuck up, you know it's your fault and you messed up and that you can do better in the future, right? Not something that's completely RNG or a mind control mechanic. I think mind control historically throughout Classic has just been one of the worst mechanics for guilds to deal with. Even in World Buff meta, right? It was like, hey, in AQ, sorry you're getting mind controlled, you're cleaved down, right? Mind controls are just really unfun, and those are completely BS. And there's better ways to go about fights and create difficulty without that. But it feels like Blizzard in Classic just leaned on mind control for difficulty, because that was the only hard mechanic to deal with, right? So I feel like there's more things they can do. Archimon fire can move faster, things like that. But you don't want a mechanic to fuck you over and then say that mechanic's bullshit. Like I got fucked by this. That's actually like that mechanic's bullshit. This is bullshit. I feel like it's way more satisfying when you have like mechanics that people, when they fuck up, they go, hey, that's my fault. Like everybody knows like what happened, and it's not something where somebody got like completely BS. So like I said, I don't envy the position of people who might have to balance this, but it's yeah,
a little disappointing.
It's a little disappointing. Yeah. I hope and I wish that they increase the difficulty in some degree, but I highly doubt that they'll do that.
Yeah. I mean, this falls into
but
like
I would be
list of things you would love to see, but you also kind of know that, yeah, they probably aren't going to do it, and they probably don't have time to do it, even if they want to do it. And it's, or if they do something, it'll be like 6 months down the line because that's when they finally got around to doing it, and it'll be like a little bit late to get the fun out of it.
And this is partially one of the reasons that they ended up even developing like mythic rating, right? And why they like made heroic mode. When it comes to like Wrath of the Lich King, that's when they first introduced 10-man, 25-man, and then heroic mode of the same thing, right? So I really do think that Blizzard solved a lot of these problems in game design later on, but I don't feel like keeping Classic in the state that it's in is like the best idea. Because also like heroic mode gave them a way to have people kill the content if they want to kill it. You can kill Arthas, but if you want to like get like the good gear or the super good gear, you have to do it on like a higher difficulty.
Yeah.
But I wasn't really a fan of difficulties personally, because I felt like it allowed people to like clear the content without actually having to really do the content.
Yeah.
But it did allow them to make the game harder. I do admit that in retail, Mythic is like way fucking harder than everything else that you do. So
it's really tricky because on one hand, you want Blizzard to make the changes, but on the other hand, a lot of community doesn't trust them to make changes,
Yeah.
and wants them to. They'd rather just keep it the same because they don't think Blizzard can do changes the right way. There's the whole thing that a lot of people will think that any change leads immediately to retail, like the really broken retail environment. Whereas I'm always on the mindset that, yeah, you can make the changes, just don't do them wrong like you did in retail in a lot of cases. But there's also the fact that Blizzard does a lot of times do them wrong and mess things up. So yeah, like you said, it's a hard spot to be in. And as someone in chat has pointed out, yeah, the harder raids in Season of Mastery hasn't really drawn people in to a degree if they just do it for the sake of doing it. But I do feel Season of Mastery has its own, man. It has its own massive issues there.
There's compounding factors to that, and I feel like the harder raids in SOM are not a big pull for people because they literally just did the content. There's no world buffs, like all this other shit surrounding it. So a lot of people just don't want to play it right now.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
have you seen the server
myself
pops?
included, right? It hasn't drawn an audience in, but I don't think it's pushed an audience away either. I don't think anybody's gone, I don't want to do Season of Mastery because the raids are harder. I don't think anybody's said that. Like nobody, literally never heard that, right? So it's never been a turnoff for people. But if you're saying it's not a draw for them, I would disagree because I think there are people who like the changes because it's a twist on some of the things. So I think it's only a positive change that they've made it harder. But SOM has so many issues with it.
Yeah. I mean, I can pull up the the server. Have you seen the populations on Season of Mastery?
No, they're terrible. Right?
It's like actually terrible. Like you look at these populations and you think, wow, like the biggest EU server for raiding has 3,000 raiders, and then the biggest NA has 2,000 raiders, and then
look at all those horde.
It just drops down. Like you go down to Mutinous, which was one of the starting off bigger servers and then got abandoned. Literally 358 people have logs registered. Although, like, to be fair, it is taking people longer to level up there because they're kind of taking their time. They're doing hardcore challenge. They're doing like the grouping experience and all of that. So I do understand that there is naturally going to be less people showing up on these logs for raiding. But it is still, man, proportionately so much less than Classic ever was at this point in time. Even if you account for the fact that they're leveling and they're enjoying that sort of things, there's definitely a massive decline in the amount of people actually interested and staying on in these servers.
I definitely agree with that. One thing that I wanted to ask you is like a question and just propose to people, because I don't like just talking about problems and not proposing solutions. That feels like we're just bitching for the sake of bitching. We're just like, oh, these aren't hard enough, etc. And like, I talked about ways to like make some encounters harder, but from a design perspective, my goal whenever I'm designing an encounter or coming up with anything or a champion or whatever is I always had to think about what is fun. What does fun look like? What does a fun encounter feel like? So like for you playing a rogue, what's a fun encounter in the game for you? And why is it fun? And it can even be something as brain dead as me do big numbers, right? like people like Gurthogg when they get to be the dude who's like fell raged because me big numbers, me booga boom 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 boom. Like people like that. So that's the thing that I think is also really big. Is figuring out what fun looks like. So like, what is a fun encounter for you as a rogue, and why is it fun?
You know what? I really liked Veil for just being an interesting fight with a lot.
No,
going
you
on.
liked it for boom boom.
you get the boom boom, but it's also interesting in that you had so many things that were going on with the Veil fight as well. I just like fights where it doesn't feel like I'm just sitting there pushing one button and doing nothing. I feel like that's when you get bored. I feel like that's when you get bored really easy. But at least for Veil, I gotta do stuff.
Can I check your casts for Veil strats? You're probably pressing one button.
Whoa,
right?
no. You gotta set up that one button though. You gotta time. You gotta time your pre-lift. You gotta pop your God. What was the stupid the item that you summon mob to get the combo points before, and then you cheese it with like
dig rat.
Yeah,
dig rat?
You gotta pop your dig rat before. You get and if you really sweaty, you could get the 4 combo point dig rat by getting someone to aggro the dig rat and hold it in combat, so that you could get another 2 combo points. I just like stuff. I like fights with mechanics that make me have to do something. Because if I'm just tanking spanking, I get bored. But at least that's for me. But I really like Black Wing Lair as a whole, even though I know it's like kind of an easy one and it's a bit short. I feel like
Okay, suppression room, more suppression room. Got it.
I feel like accessibility wise, I feel it was really nice because it was and I don't know if they can replicate this ever again because it might have been like a once in a generation kind of thing with the peak of Classic where everyone was getting really excited about raiding. People were just for the first time discovering what passing was and min-maxing, and speed running was kind of just taking off then. It was kind of like this perfect storm almost where like all of these things were happening for the first time properly and people were really excited about raiding, and the raid didn't feel like insanely long with tons of trash either. At least for me, even though it's like some people think Black Wing Lair might be too easy or too quick, it felt like it hit this perfect moment in time where it got everyone excited about WoW, and everyone was like really enjoying Black Wing Lair and WoW at that point in time, at least.
I think those are all like pretty good points. I think a lot of what ends up being fun for people is in that same vein of it feels complex, or you feel good that you're doing something complex, even if it isn't really complex. But you just like things going on. Like somebody mentioned, like Four Horsemen was a pretty fun fight. And that's not one where you're sitting there just pressing one button.
Oh yeah,
it's where
Four Horsemen is a fun fight.
It's where you have to figure out how to, like, when to go to what corner, etc. And then sometimes you break the cycle and go to a corner that nobody else is at, just because you know that horseman's gonna, like, this one's gonna die before that other one, etc. And you get there as a shield wall. So like, there was a lot of things that like I did on Four Horsemen that I thought it made me feel clever, right? For me, encounters that are fun are ones where I feel clever that I did something. Right? Like as a rogue, vanishing a mechanic. Somebody talked about Oro. Vanishing, evasioning, right? Cloaking, making sure that you don't eat a mechanic or whatever as a rogue is like a really fun high moment for you. So having an encounter like that where you look forward to it, like, hey, this week I'm going to vanish the Chromagus breath, and try to time it correctly. And if you fuck it up, it's on you, right? Like that's a mechanic where you're trying to min max. If you fuck it up, it's on you. And so those are things that I think are definitely big themes for how things become more fun. Is using your abilities in a way where you are encouraged to use more than one button. But it's not a utility thing a lot of the time. Some people don't like the utility feeling of like, oh, I got to sheep this mob, I got to fear this one. A lot of people don't like that, right? Like a lot of warlocks don't really like Mag Theridin. They seed a bunch, or at least pre-nerf Mag Theridin, where it's like you seed a bunch and then you're banishing and fearing and banishing and fearing and not really contributing to damage a lot of times. People like to do damage and do utility things that allow them to continue damaging, or do things that make them feel smart. Not every class has access to that, but
in a healthy state of the game, it'd be interesting if every class had access to that.
Yeah, oh god, and I like clever things, but I don't like things that negate a huge mechanic of the fight in a meaningful way for the entire raid. For example, I really dislike that on Gurthogg, you can bop the Fel Rage person and he still tries to hit them for the entire duration of the bop.
Ooh, we didn't do that. We just did it traditionally, actually.
Yeah, you can bop the Fel Rage person and he won't change targets. So the fight, like you said, like you didn't do that. Now the fight's going to be really fucking trivial for you.
Yeah, that would be even easier. Yeah.
Yeah, it's even easier. So it's like, I would just be like, oh yeah, if you bop him, then you drop the Fel Rage buff. Boom. Like, okay. Like if you find something like that, I feel like you should at least do some changes to these fights to at least, I feel like, in my opinion, Blizzard should make changes to the fights in Classic in TBC to retain the integrity and difficulty of the intended fight when it was created, right? If people have changed and gotten better at the game, you still want to maintain that level of difficulty, so you'd have to buff it, right? And if people are negating mechanics in a meaningful way, I say something like the bop, just get rid of it, right? That's too strong, right? If you're bopping somebody to like change tank targets so that your one tank can lose aggro and like drop his stacks, that's fine, right? I think that's fine because there's still an element of the guy has to stop attacking. You have to do it at a point where he's got enough stacks and keep healing him. You don't remove all the stacks with bop. You can do it with like Divine Shield if your paladin's the first one tanking. But I definitely feel like the bop part of that just makes the fight way more trivial and negates a major mechanic of it for like 30% or 40% of that mechanic's duration. So stuff like that, I am not a fan of, and I think should actually be removed from the game to retain the difficulty that was intended.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it'd be man. Well, we always go down the path of man. If Blizzard was more responsive and such, it'd be nice if they do these changes. I mean, this is kind of leads into like almost what we were talking about, or not talking about, but like the replies you see on the community council where like they're talking about, for example, the state of TBC servers. Grant had a reply on there where I don't know if the general public has seen this, because as me and Zirene have talked about before, the community council is a mess to sift through and even want to pay attention to, because it's essay length replies buried in essay length replies where 90% of the topics don't apply.
Go to the start of this. Go to the start of this.
Yeah.
Go to the top. Go to the top. This is only 6 posts, by the way.
Yeah. And I gotta be honest, even I just skimmed it because there's so much stuff here to pull out, like the actual useful tidbits. You gotta sift through essays upon essays upon essays and figure out what actually applies here. Yeah, all community council issues aside, the reply that got posted here was actually really interesting for people that don't know. So basically, Six Fury posted asking about, hey, can we maybe look at the state of TBC servers? They're not very good right now, and posted about the reasons why. And the developer, Grant, replied and basically said that it's something they're open to looking at. But in particular, he mentioned, I think here, he starts talking about how they actually considered doing what a lot of people have suggested, where they cap faction balance at a certain level and say, okay, well, there's too many horde. You gotta wait in a queue to play alliance or to play horde, because we want to lessen the amount of horde playing and kind of even out the faction balance. So he starts bringing up issues where they start talking about, hey, is what if we do that and then it becomes literally impossible to log in to horde because it starts an infinite queue situation and the queue starts getting crazy. And what happens then?
Is it 60% created characters or what? Because if I have, or 60% logged in, right?
Yeah.
Because what if all the horde log off? Are you able to create a character then? Or is it locked because there's 60% playing any one time, right? Like, it would be very hard to judge when you lock that faction based on, because people can quit, right? Like, people can transfer. When do you actually free that up? Is it created characters? Because people could just flood it with level 1s and shit. There's a lot of different things that go into this.
They discussed the idea of implementing bonuses and awards for playing the lesser faction, which is something private servers have experimented on in the past, where they implement, you get faster experience or you get something else as a benefit of playing the less popular faction. Although, to be fair, it hasn't always really helped private servers. They still struggle with the same issues. So to bring about the point that Grant does post is that they are open to it, but they also don't know whether it would fix it, because private servers have tried that in the past as well, and it still didn't fix faction balance issues. But that said, I do think it's still better to at least try and try to throw some stuff out there and see if they can do something, because right now it's just decaying more and more. And by not doing anything, they just send a message that they care less, and people start to believe the narrative that they really don't care, which is the narrative that most people already believe right now. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I'm glad that sometimes they get these posts, but man, I do wish that it was easier to find these nuggets and gems in the community console. Because if someone didn't link this to me, I would have no idea that this was a thing. Because I'm not sifting through all those posts that don't apply to what I'm looking for to find like the few posts that do apply. I am curious though to see where you come down on the second community council post though, the chicken debacle. Because for people that don't know,
I saw this one.
Yeah, so for people that don't know, basically there's kind of a divide in the community a little bit in that some people are all for the chicken and some people are not. And to give the background to people that don't understand what we're talking about, Battle Chicken is an engineering pet that you can summon, and people have discovered the way now to proc the buff that gives you basically some haste. and you can stack an entire group and have everyone pop their battle chicken, and you basically get like an extra bloodlust from that.
Yep.
And if you do that, you do have a much higher chance of passing well, and etc. etc. And so there's this divide where some people say, "Oh, this battle chicken thing is dumb. They should just nerf it." And then there's other half that thinks, "Oh, well, just leave it in. It's probably not like really hurting anyone particularly, and they like having like this weird niche thing that they can do." So there's a kind of two sides of the coin. So I'm curious to see where you land on your stance on this, Zirene.
So my stance on it is going to be really probably unpopular.
Oh, here we go. This is what we like. This is when the YouTube comments get really good on the podcast.
Or maybe it'll be really popular. I don't know. Might
Okay.
be one or the other.
Okay, what you got for me?
Chickens should still stack. They should just insta-proc. And you don't have to do the trivial mechanic of making something hit you. Make chickens more reliable. Actually buff chickens.
Buff chickens.
Yeah, don't make it fucking stupid where you have to take like a mechanic and waste time before a fight. Just make it so the chicken insta-procs the first time you summon it. Like, I feel like the big thing about chickens is that there's a lot of variance to them. Sometimes people fuck up the auto proc. Sometimes people get like a natty proc. Because here's the thing: if you end up using chickens anyway, and they remove like the mechanic that makes it so that you because chickens have always existed, right? Like people pop chickens on Loatheb and shit.
People have been popping chickens since like Black Wing Lair. People have been popping chickens for a long time.
Yeah, this has always existed, and it's always affected the parsing meta, right? People have like parsed better when they had a bunch of chickens, right? I think that engineering in general is just a profession that's always kind of like rewarded these types of things and made you better at PvE. This is like saying I have to be engy to parse because of sappers. Yeah, it exists in the game. It's part of the DPS, right? And it's like, oh, this only helps this class and not this other one. Well, it's like, well, yeah, Bop only helps mages and warlocks, and like casters continue to do damage without threat. It's like, what about warriors? It's like, yeah, people have different things that go for them. Chicken stacking, I think, is completely fine. I don't think there's a way around it that would feel good, except for just making them consistent. Maybe if you want to reduce it to like 3% per chicken and then make it consistent, that's fine, right? If you want to like balance it out where like it's way easier to get them, but they're nerfed on each one, whatever you want to do there, I don't care about the numbers you want to touch. I just think making them consistent so they aren't frustrating to use is stupid. The RNG part of it is really bad. Because it's just something that people are going to do anyway. So
did you see? I like this chat suggestions, Zirene. This will be the actual unpopular one. The solution is to make it RNG. 50% chance it will increase your attack speed. 50% chance it will decrease it. True engineering way. God, the rage that would happen if they actually made that change.
And this is a min-max thing too, because like it's only for gnomes,
so angry.
right? Like,
It was so angry. But yeah, it's interesting that you say that this would be unpopular, because I feel like this is the take that most people agree with to a degree, is that they feel like it's not so much they're against the chickens, they're against the tedium of the chickens. Even though we now know how to proc it, it feels stupid. Like having to do it like this way sometimes. It's like some people look at it as like, oh, this is this cool little thing that you can do. But man, it's also like, even if you plan it out and you do it, it's still like weird tedium in the way you have to do it right now. And that like, you got, okay, we'll pull this mob, we're all gonna pop it here. Is everyone popping the chickens? No, okay. And then you get a clip of like Orlando raging at people for popping chickens at the wrong time, which went viral. So it's one of those things where it feels like if you just get rid of the tedium of it and just make it like a buff or something, just make it like reliable. Oh, you just pop it, your chicken pops the buff right away, you're good. And then it doesn't feel like this weird, strange thing that you have to go out of your way to do in a weird fashion.
Yeah, you just have to get engineering and gnomish in particular, right? Like that's kind of a, I don't know. It just makes it like a requirement for all melee to be.
Man, Chad has some good suggestions. Imagine if they did that 50% chance to go backwards in attack speed, and they also limit like to do something weird with range, like with drums, how drums have an 8-yard range. Start doing weird range things with chicken as well.
Oh God, man,
You have to be within 2 yards of the chicken at all times.
So somebody said 20% chance your chicken buffs the boss. I actually, funny story. We were doing Nax one time, and I had 2 warriors. So I was on my alt warrior in the second raid, and I was main tanking, and I popped chicken on Lotheb, and I was like wearing tank gear, and I wasn't like super like you're Fury prop, but I'm still wearing like some dreadnought and shit, and like doing a mixture, and I was getting shit on. I was like, what the fuck is happening? I'm getting destroyed. And everybody's like, what are you doing? What did you stone shield? Like, are you okay? And I die because like Lotheb is all about like, rotating healers and shit. And then the second tank takes over and then he goes through the fight. I then check the VOD and I realize I didn't level up my engineering all the way. So there's like a level 40 chicken in front of the boss getting parried every hit. My chicken parry hasted Lotheb to smack the shit out of me. I actually got fucked that time. I couldn't stop laughing when I figured it out because it's just like this orange parry just keeps popping up. And then my chicken enraged, so it attacks really fast. So it's just like parry. I was getting destroyed. So the boss, I actually did have a chicken one time buff the boss because I didn't max my engineering, because your chicken's level is based on your engineering level divided by 5, I believe. So level like 40 something chicken in Nax in front of the boss because the pet AI didn't make it go behind. That was a good time.
Oh God, remember? So people don't even remember that. Like the people that haven't been doing chicken a long time forget that chicken used to have really bad AI as well back in Classic. Is that the chickens would just stand there sometimes and not do anything. You'd have to like pop it in a certain way to make sure that the chicken wasn't a dumb chicken that would just sit there. You'd literally have to go to the spot where the boss would be pulled and pop the chicken, because that was the way to guarantee that at least the chicken would be sitting there attacking the boss then, and not just like sitting there like twiddling his thumbs or doing whatever the chicken does when he doesn't actually do anything. Yeah, I agree with chicken terms. Although I do think I wouldn't actually be against them making it unique. But then I don't know if then that would bring about this weird meta where like, you know how we have the rotating necklaces? It would be rotating. Yeah, and then it would make things more tedious. So maybe not.
Because isn't chicken like a 20-minute cooldown?
Is it 20 or 30? It's something like that. I forgot exactly what it is. But yeah. It's
Yeah, so you would just rotate the people in your group and have 4 people use chickens. You literally have 5% increased attack speed uptime
the entire time.
the entire time.
Yeah.
Right. I thought about that as well, where I was like, if you make it unique, it's not going to solve the problem. Everybody in your group's still going to do it. Like, what's going on?
Yeah. So yeah, I think I agree. I think, yeah, it's interesting you said it might be unpopular, because I feel like that's actually the conclusion. Most people I talk to have been like, yeah, we don't actually mind the chicken. We just think it's like needlessly tedious in a weird way to actually do the chicken.
Oh, duration is only 4 minutes? Yeah, that's right. So you would do 5. Yeah, everybody in the group would have to do it.
Oh, how do you feel about the launch timing, by the way? 2 weeks from now?
I'm glad they announced it now. Like,
instead of 4 weeks. I was honestly really starting to think that they might go for February.
I thought it was going to be February.
Because it was just like no communication for ages. Which, by the way, you guys got a community council. This is where you could, post a little bit of like what's coming up, maybe. Here's a good question, Zirene. How long do you think they should wait before Phase 4?
8 weeks.
Ooh, so 2 months.
8 weeks, maybe 9.
So give people, yeah, I could see that. 8 weeks. Yeah, because it's this tricky thing now where Phase 4 doesn't feel like a full phase in itself in a lot of ways. So they don't want it to be, they can't do 6 months or something. It'll feel way too long in a lot of ways. And honestly, if Blizzard has Holly Longdale leading it feels like she would know, or she of all people would know, that when you have like a proper content release with like a not proper content release phase and you make both of them full length, that's when you start losing people. Because people have been doing like the same max raid for too long and such, and they just get like bored of that tier, and then people quit. So it feels like they can't do that.
Phase 4 is still Season 3, and you can't make Season 3 drag on for 40 weeks.
Oh my god!
You can't do 2020.
God, if they do a season 3 that goes on for that long, Blizzard, please, can you guys make sure you reset the MMR this phase when you start season 3, because you guys did a soft cap last time, a soft reset, and it just made people get inflated way faster and caused even more issues with the 3K MMR thing. They need to do like a full reset of the MMR, because this might be a long season as well, and we don't want people already going to 2K right away, and everyone that was above 2K only gets pushed back down to 2K MMR. They'll just inflate everything again. So I really hope that they at least like do a full reset of the MMR for PvP.
No, I agree, because it's just going to make it worse, and then season 4 is going to have even worse time. So. Yeah, like Menarch said, rank 1 will be cap in season 3. Yeah, if it lasts that long as well, and MMR doesn't reset, then you have big problems on your hands. I do hope it only lasts like a bit. Also notice, the release date is a Thursday.
Oh yeah, we should talk about that. That is Oh man, I understand why they do it. So for people that don't understand why they do it so that they can have like EU NA kind of compete together. Because if they do the Tuesday release date, it was always like scuffed. But so they're doing it Thursday to make sure that EU and NA can both compete for world first and such in the race. But
what time did they do it?
Wait, what time did they do it?
What time do you think they do it? Because they didn't say a time.
Oh, they didn't say a time?
I don't see a time anywhere. If somebody knows the time that they're releasing the raid,
I swear someone told me like 3 p.m. or something like that. But like,
is it unfriendly EU time?
It wouldn't be surprised me if it's still unfriendly EU time. You guys still have to do like some weird time. But yeah, last time it was like an unfriendly EU time.
Well, last time they said it was going to be midnight CET, and then didn't end up being like 2 a.m.
They ended up starting at 2 a.m. Yeah,
and the reason they delayed it is because China, different reset. So the reason it's on a Thursday now, which might seem arbitrary to a lot of people, is because if they release it on Tuesday, EU resets Wednesday, so EU would get 2 resets in like 2 days. If they release it on a Wednesday, then China gets a reset in the middle of Wednesday at like 5 p.m. Pacific time. So they'd have to release it at like a really unfriendly EU hour if they release it at like 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. on a Wednesday. So they're just deciding to do it on a Thursday where no region has a reset that day.
But man, does it! I actually hate the Thursday as an NA player though, because it screws up my guild a lot in particular. But it screws a lot of guilds, because a lot of guilds raid on that Tuesday. They plan out the week on like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It seems to be a really popular period of raiding. And that means for a lot of people, they get the Thursday and then they gotta be like, oh, yeah, guys, you guys want to raid Friday? Maybe Saturday? So that we can get the week 1 clear? Because the week 1 clear is important for guilds. They want to show that, yeah, we can week 1 clear it, or we can at least get good progression in the first week. Because if they don't do that, then they fall behind the curve of recruiting, and it doesn't look as good when they start looking for new players. So a lot of guilds just want to do that week 1 clear.
In a weird way too, this gives you another shot that week to do your attunement if you've fucked up every week. You get one more shot. You get another shot and download the week aura to put your cowl on. So yeah, it gives people another chance to attune. Because I was thinking about it where I was like, if it releases on like a Tuesday on reset, some people will be like, well, I haven't done my attunement in like a casual guild. They'd be like, shit. So yeah, you have a guild that fucked up every week. Yeah, there's a few people. Out of 25 people, there's probably one person who's fucked up a decent amount of times and hasn't actually done it. So, yeah.
Speaking of like that one guildie, I'm really looking forward to people who failed the mini game in next phase with Teron.
It's actually easier than it was than it is in like the Flash game.
Yeah, it's actually really easy. But I feel it'll be one of those things where like one person is just not gonna get it for a really long period of time, and then he'll finally get it like 20 weeks down the line, and he'll mess it up and wipe the raid.
Yeah, it's a pet bar instead of an actual like action bar with 1 through 5 and stuff like that. So it's a pet bar. So if you don't have your pet bar bound, well, you got to click it. And if you don't have your pet bar showing, then that's a big problem. So make sure you have a pet bar somewhere in your UI, even if you're somebody who doesn't use a pet. And the other thing on top of that is you just need to not be the first person, because if the first person's done with theirs, their guy hangs around and then can actually help you with the next one. So as long as you're not the first person and suck at it, then it's completely fine. It's really easy.
I'm personally looking really forward to the people who have custom UIs with like buggy pet bars, and then you get transformed, and then you're sitting there going, wait, where's my pet bar? Where's my pet bar? Because that has happened to people in the past, where they got it was really popular when people were doing mind control stuff, shenanigans for Black Wing Lair buffs and stuff. Yeah. They were like, wait, my UI doesn't have a pet bar.
That was like another thing that I thought they should do is like, I was looking at like ways to potentially buff encounters, and like either you make it harder for the ghost stuff to kill the ads, you make the ads hit harder. Because I had one where like the ads were just running around and they didn't really do much. Like they do very little damage, especially since there's not much going out in that fight. So it's not like a complete wipe unless he didn't kill any of them. I think there should also, because Teron does that thing where he summons like a black ball and then it shadow bolts people. I think those shadow bolts should hit harder and should encourage the tank to move the boss. I think Teron's a way more interesting fight if you have to move him around the room. And then people have to bring their ghost to different corners based on where he is. So if he's like, there's so many black balls that he's in the back right corner, you can't be bringing the skeleton into the back left corner. You got to like bring it to where he started. So 2 black balls, please. Yeah. Maybe he can summon 2 black balls and then he can do they just hit harder. So yeah. I feel like that's you can make it so you have to use that room, because Teron is a tank and spank sitting in one spot. It becomes very uninteresting.
Yeah, I quickly found it out. If you don't get picked, you literally just stand there and DPS. You don't do anything.
Yeah, it's a tank and spike for everybody who's not doing the mechanic. That's it.
Yeah. But yeah, so I guess to wrap up our topics a little bit. So I've been working, for people that don't know. So I've been working on a Guild Payo cheat sheet that's actually like interactive, and you can actually like edit stuff. So for people that haven't been watching all the recent drama and all that stuff, I'm not gonna go get into all that stuff, but basically a lot of bits lists have come out that aren't very like good for loot Payo. There's a lot of mistakes and like questionable choices and such being given out in a lot of like loot Payo videos and things that are going around right now. And so I had this idea a while ago. Actually, this is something I was thinking about at the start of TBC, but I never did it because the complexity of doing something like this is a pain in the butt. And honestly, I was losing a bit of faith in Blizzard to want to invest this much work into do a project like this. So what I've been working on, and this is something that I have to thank the Shaman Discord actually for starting this project, because they had it started before me. So I actually only just hopped onto it. Is that
stolen content?
Is that we created a Discord with a whole bunch of different class leads or basically the mods of the different Discords to create a universal loot Payo sheet. So this is a sheet that isn't created by one content creator. It's not created by like one person like saying, oh no, this should be what the Payos are. Because the problem has always been, and this is the problem with pretty much every Payo video since the start of time, unless it's like a really, really knowledgeable guild leader or someone like that, is that people only know the classes they play and they lack knowledge of the classes they don't play most often. So what usually happens with most Payos is that they're really good when it comes to their class and knowing what their class wants, but when it comes to what any other classes wants, you just kind of start guessing, because even for the best player, it's that there's knowledge gaps there, big knowledge gaps there in the other classes. So yeah, what happened is we got a whole Discord community of people going where it's literally just 1 or 2 representatives from every class in WoW, and we kind of collab to work together to figure out, okay, what do you guys think is a fair Payo for this particular item? What do you think this is a fair Payo for this particular item? So yeah, we basically did that, and we created a sheet. And by the way, the sheet that's being passed around by a lot of people is the early beta, like alpha version of this sheet. So this wasn't actually meant to be public, but people got their hands on it and started using it for their own guild prios and making videos and such. We were actually trying to keep this not released. And so yeah, we basically, what I did is I'm more of the guy who's trying to coordinate the website for it. But what they've been working on is to get everyone to sim with the same settings. So we figure out DPS settings for all the different items, and then determine what is the right loot priors based on all the guild allocated loots and such. And I basically just made it pretty is what my job is I make it pretty. So I made like for people who have seen my rogue version of this, is I made an entire page. It's not done yet, by the way, guys. I need to finish color coding stuff, so it's still in like a beta state right now. But basically, you can come to like a table here. You can sort by like boss, by raid, by like your class and such. And under every item, you can click. And not only does it show you the prio for what classes should be prioed in what order and such, but you can also click on each item and it'll show you context notes given by the players from each class, where like sometimes you have to say, oh, this item is BIS for this class, but only if they have 4 pieces, that's when they should be prioritized, or something along those lines. Because we felt like between all of us, the fault of a lot of prior lists is that they don't take context into account in a lot of these decisions. Right. So yeah, that's at least that's what we're trying to do. And then I'm trying to make it all pretty and searchable with all these filters and such. So it's a work in progress. But yeah, I hope that this is something that we can get done over the weekend. They're gonna have a meeting, and I'm been doing data entry. So for the people that wonder why I have had so little sleep the last few days, I've been doing data entry. I gotta enter every single item in all of Black Wing Lair and Hyjal, and then also take photos so that they can get nice little photos and when you're sorting stuff and all of that. But yeah, hopefully going forward, what we'll have is like a Discord where there's communication between all the classes, and then at the start of every phase, we can release like loot sheets that are kind of agreed upon in general by all the classes. So you're not just like prioring one class, you're not just prioring like one or knowledgeable in just only one area. But yeah, so I thought it'd be an interesting discussion though, Zirene, to talk about the effectiveness of BIS lists, because I feel like, man, it's such a minefield, BIS list, because it goes down this thing where people say you shouldn't use BIS lists and they're ineffective and such, but at the same time, you have this very vocal crowd that says, "Give me the BIS list. I just want to know the BIS list," and it's really hard on honestly, I think on creators sometimes, because they want the topic that will get the clicks and it will get like the views and such, and like even though you know that the BIS list isn't the best information to give them, sometimes like it's really easy to fall into the trap of giving the BIS list, of giving the loot prio, even if you don't know the information that you want to give.
I've talked about this a bit on my stream, especially when people ask me for like tanking BIS lists, because I'm like, your gear literally changes with every item you get, but this is ultimately what you will want at the end. But you want different sets. You want to have a stam set. You want to have like an Illidan tanking set. You want to have different things. So for tanks, it's really flexible. And then also people are like, what's your fire res set look like? And it's like, well, there's different between like, what's your fire res BIS list look like, and what's your fire res actually going to look like. So yeah, for DPS classes like Rogue, it's usually pretty straightforward. It's usually like, yeah, just get as much hit as you possibly can. And these are the items that are going to do it. If you don't have these items, just use the second BIS, right? And for Rogue is very unique because you can almost never have too much hit. Granted, I know you can, but for like a Warlock or something, you have to keep changing things around to get your hit. If you lose hit somewhere, you need to gain it somewhere else. If you get a BIS piece that doesn't have hit on it, you need to like put a different ring on. So yeah, the things up until you get your final iteration of what things look like, or what you want them to look like, then yeah, everything before the BIS list is just a puzzle. And that's why I don't really like releasing BIS lists, especially for tanks, especially for warrior tank next phase, because good God, it's going to be hell. it's going to be hell as a warrior next phase.
There's also the dancing around like certain
There's context too.
yeah, the context. A good one is the hunter sets where they have to balance around like their hit, and so at different points in the gearing, different items will have different effectiveness on them, right?
Yeah,
depending on when they get it.
Because like for hunters, there's a belt you should pick up. I think it's off of Reliquary of Souls. It's like really free. It's got hit on it, and because you aren't going to get like Madness or Storm Rage or Cursed Vision of Sargeras right away, it's very good to pick up this belt to fill in that hit gap. So it's one it's not your true BIS, but you should definitely move towards that belt if you can and pick it up early if it's uncontested or nobody else wants it. It's very, very nice. But you're talking about BIS lists and stuff like that. I'm going to send it to you one more time. This is a guy named Tigward. He came by my stream and we worked on his BIS list. It's a lot of him and then some of my chat and then me. And so this BIS list is it's a Google Doc that has, if you mouse over each item, it has context. It has every like kind of priority thing here. And this is mostly balanced around the highest level of play and not so much the casual guild. Yeah. This list will consistently cuck Shadow Priests and Elemental Shamans, even though those are like Elemental Shaman 4-piece is really good and Shadow Priest want a bunch of haste. Because there's an argument that like Shadow Priests get first Zardoom because they need to hit a haste breakpoint, and all haste before that is useless until they get that breakpoint. But they could also get shoulders or use a different piece with haste on it, and they don't have to get Zardoom. So it's like, what is the biggest DPS upgrade for your raid with like the singular item? And text is inside of if you mouse over the item itself, it'll have like a little thing that will tell you why, like for Nether Void Cloak, etc. It's like Shadow Priest greater than this. Not BIS, right? The phase 3 BT part, I think more context is needed for some of the items. Like if you go to the tab at the bottom to get the second one, second tab, it's it's got things where I think Enhancement Shaman get prioed on Cursed Vision because there's the other alternatives to them aren't very good, even including like the Forest Prowler. Choker of Endless Nightmares, Enhance Rogue, Insidious Bands Rogue, Warclave, he put Fury, Rogue Arms. Okay, I didn't. This is probably wait. Mouse over the Warclave thing. I need more context on this.
Player over class for legendary.
Okay, that's fine. All right. Yeah, poggers, bro. If you need Lucci to decide this one for you, there's a bigger problem. Damn. Damn. Fuck. Oh shit. Yeah, Storm Rage Signet was like Rogue equal then or greater to Fury. That was an interesting one because I feel like the Storm Rage Signet, the biggest one is it's really good for Rogue because you make use of all of the hit on it. But Fury, it's really good for them because of the fact that armor penetration is additive and it's better and better the more you have. Classes that are going to stack armor pen like Fury Warrior, it's okay to prio them things like Storm Rage Signet here. Because the fact that they will removing the first 1,000 armor is less effective than removing the last 1,000 armor. Yeah. So the more armor penetration you have, the better armor penetration is. So a class like Fury that's going to stack armor penetration, Storm Rage Signet is very good for them. So unless that warrior is like has no armor pen or anything like that, also the value of Storm Rage Signet will go up next phase. When I think a second armor penetration ring comes into play from Zul'Aman, and armor penetration cloak comes into play, and Executioner does too. So that's like kind of a big thing.
Yeah, it's interesting that this sheet is also another one of the refills of Jugs. Jugs is the guy that made this original format, and everyone was just like, oh, this sheet's leaked. Okay, quick, everyone copy paste it. It's nice and clean, so we'll just use this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good. What ended up happening is we had that sheet, and then it was just like he was like, oh yeah, I took this sheet because there wasn't really like it just put the classes in that would use it, and then had like no equal, greater than, none of that stuff. So why isn't Fury equal rogues on CVOS? Rogue should be last on CVOS because it's just not very. Or maybe Bear, I think, or like Druid even lower than them.
Yeah,
But
Rogue's,
it's because the Rogue tier helm is very, very good, and it's relatively easy to get. Rogues only share their tier with Druids, so you'll get tier helm very quickly. So I guess the only people who really want it are Druids. Mages don't really use it. Mages can use the helm. Actually, it's like one of the pieces they could use, the Tempest helm, but it's Rogue upgrade in T6 helm versus Cursed Vision of Sargeras. It's the same stats, just slightly better for Cursed Vision, and that's it. It's not a very big upgrade. Whereas something like Survival Hunter uses their tier helm, so they don't really compete for it. BM Hunter uses Cursed Vision, and the next highest for them isn't very good because they lack the hit. Enhancement Shaman, same thing. Forest Prowler is just bullshit. Ret, Fury, Rogue, equal arms. Yep. So I kind of like the priority there, enhancement and all that stuff. But obviously, you can see he put greater than or equal to, which obviously does mean if you really wanted to, you could make enhance, BM, Ret, and Fury all equal, but they're all still greater than Rogue. So it's like, these are our slight prios in that order, but at the end of the day, you could make them equal, just don't give it to a Rogue first. It's not a good item for a Rogue compared to these other classes. So
yeah, well, I mean, the other thing is that anytime tiers is in the equation, we're gonna get so much tier as well, because people have to remember that it's double the amount of tier. They double the drops, so there's gonna be lots of tier. It'll be like this current phase we're leaving now, where tier is free in a lot of cases. Tier is just free. You're gonna get it unless you're really unlucky. I've heard from some really unlucky people, but in general, you're probably gonna have just free tier for everyone. And so anytime your tier's a good item, it's like just free, good. You should take it.
There's an argument that Shaman shouldn't get COVS because support class. I mean, it's still one of the larger DPS upgrades for your raid to give it to an enhanced.
I mean, this is where context comes in a lot, right? Is that like we said, this particular sheet style is made towards the like a hardcore guild where they're prioritizing the total DPS gain more than anything else. And in this scenario, the Shaman, it doesn't matter if they're support class, it's just a DPS gain's a DPS gain.
Yeah, and it's funny because I play Ellie Shaman, and I definitely want my 4-piece and items, but I know that me getting items doesn't help my output. So like on this sheet, and like I gave you guys some context that like what the supportive classes do, if you're a supportive class that doesn't really gain more effectiveness for what you bring to the raid via gear, then you're really low prio on this. And what I mean by that is if you're like a balanced druid, you're probably not going to be high prio on a lot of things on this list because crit doesn't make your fairy fire go up faster. Haste might, if you want to stack haste, baby. Like just fairy fire things more frequently. But no, it really doesn't allow you, it doesn't increase the crit that you give to the raid. It doesn't increase your fairy fire uptime. None of that stuff, right? Whereas like an elemental shaman, having haste doesn't make you place totems faster, doesn't make you do any of these things better that you bring to the raid, like use drums. But a Shadow Priest is the highest prio on this list of the supportive classes because Shadow Priest gives mana to people, and the more gear you have as a Shadow Priest, the more mana you give to your mages and your shaman that's in that group. So we ended up saying like Shadow is the most effective of the supportive classes, or at least supportive caster classes, for item prio because gear helps them do what they bring to the raid, and they get to do that more effectively. Whereas like an elemental shaman gives about the same to the raid, whether they're in 2-piece tier 4 or 4-piece T6. Yeah. So it's just kind of the reality of the situation. But this is, like we said, very much so based on like the highest level and not so much based on the average guild. Like you go down to the bottom and we have like Shroud of the Highborn, I think is one that's always a little bit debated because we put like, this is a healing cloak. It's from Illidan. It's a healing cloak from Illidan. All the healers are low on it, right? Because it has haste on it. But like the context is very important. If you click on the context and like pop that up, they actually bring team forward. Yeah, exactly, NBC. But it's like there's things here where it's like only useful on Shadow Priest if you need to trade hit for haste threshold, if no Zardoom or low on trash haste rings. Because that's the thing too is like Zardoom. A lot of Shadow Priests are saying like Zardoom goes to them. But they need like 2 trash rings. They need all the other haste pieces before they can even equip Zardoom and have it be a DPS upgrade for them, or even an upgrade to them giving people mana. So there's a lot of differences here. Also, he started to take ZA into account. I think there's like a cloak or something where it's like, oh, this is like actually BIS for this class, and ZA there's a better alternative. I think Ring of Deceitful Intent. Who is that off of? That's
Is that Shade?
I think that might be Shade.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's Shade. Yeah, there's a Shade ring.
Yeah. So like Ring of Deceitful Intent, if you scroll up to it, Ring of Deceitful Intent is one where it's like, yeah, this is a ring that rogues will use for a bit. Where is this thing?
Yeah, it's here.
Ring of Deceitful Intent. There it is. There it is. Yeah, where it's like similar to Ring of Lethality, used best by bears to hit cap in certain sets, and then survival equals rogue, right?
Yeah.
But it's like the reason that this might be good for some other classes too, but these things are going to be used with a little bit more. The longevity of this piece is bigger for rogues. And it's the same thing with like Storm Rage Signet, where it's like rogues are up there in Storm Rage Signet because they make use of all the hit. And then ZA, there's an alternative for warriors. And in fact, warriors, I think, want both armor penetration rings when it comes to ZA. So there's there's a few things like this, but yeah, the context is very important, and don't take these things without context. Somebody wanted a link to that. Yeah, there's a link right here.
Yeah, context is super important. That's the biggest thing we did when we were talking about our little Discord group we have, is trying to figure out like the context for everything. So I think when we started scheduling this, starting to schedule like Discord meetings and such to discuss context, because it's so tricky. It's so tricky, and that's why like every loot list ever that gets developed or given out to the public and such, there's no matter how good it is, there's always like missed pieces or items or like disagreements and such, just because of context issues. Issues. So even if the person is like super knowledgeable, which they aren't always, they even if they're like the perfect player, they're just always missing context that might only apply to one person's guild, and then he's like saying, "Hey, what the hell, man? In my guild, this and this happened. So why are you recommending this?"
Like, for example, if I had a Shadow Priest that I had given 2 rings to, he has bracers, he has literally every haste piece he needs, and he made like the cloth shoulders to have haste, and he's actually got all of the haste equipped, and he's because the way that it works with Zardoom is Shadow Priest need like 100 and is 100, it's like 160, 147 or 160, something like that haste to affect their mind flay in a meaningful way. I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head. I apologize. But any haste below that is actually not good for them for the most part, and they should just wear spell power. Until they reach that break point through their combination of gear, they shouldn't wear any of it, really. So once they actually get that enough haste for that, they slap all those pieces on. So you'll end up with a bunch of shit that you aren't using in your bag, and that's something that, like, even though a Shadow Priest with all that becomes a lot better for the raid, it's like, do I really give the Shadow Priest 2 haste rings to sit on before he can actually really want to equip them? Maybe not, maybe. So it becomes a lot like harder to evaluate that. And so bosses are only a small portion of raid. Haste helps multi-dotting as well. Yeah, but at the same time, it's better to have that in terms of like overall DPS for the raid, to put that haste on an Arcane Mage, on a Destro Lock. It's just better for the raid to put those haste rings on them instead of the Shadow Priest, right?
It's been fascinating to see how fast like this one sheet has spread, though. Like,
yeah, this was weeks ago, dude. This was weeks ago.
Jug's initial sheet has spread to everywhere, to everyone's versions of sheets. So for people who don't know, Jugs is the one who's also in our Discord group, who's the one responsible for making like the group sheet and everything. And then his prior sheet has turned up on everyone's thing.
Yeah, what can I say?
Jugs.
It's a good Jugs, man.
Yeah, Jugs, I mean, Jugs did work. Good job, Jugs.
Yep. Jugs doing the heavy lifting, man. It was a good setup for everybody. Yeah. And then at the bottom, like, because I didn't want to do anything. Like, I heard there was like some content creators who were stealing from others, and I was like, I didn't want to. He only took like the format. He didn't take any other information.
Yeah.
And so I was like, this isn't my sheet. This is his sheet, and like, we worked on it a little bit. I contributed like 25%, and like 10% of that is my chat as well. So like 75% of this is like his, and I agree with most of it. And then he was like, yeah, you can spread this around, it's fine. And I was like, well, like I didn't want to do one of those things where people were stealing. And so I was like, just put like your guild application at the bottom. So if you want to apply to Yep on Grobulus Horde side, there's an application at the bottom of this sheet.
Yeah.
If you like this prio list, if you're somebody this list is prioing good items to, click that link at the bottom.
No, I like this because you didn't take anything from other people. I will say, guys, if you're gonna take something from another creator who's done numbers or who's done like a lot of work from that, definitely do not change their stuff, like the numbers and such, if they're set in a certain way. And then 2, if you're gonna do it, like make sure like the original person gets full credit for the work they put in. You definitely don't want to like take their work and then change the numbers or anything like that, and then put your name over it. That's super disrespectful. I think if you take someone else's work and then you put your name on it as well, it's like it feels bad for the original creator. So don't do that.
Yeah, I also told him immediately when Tig took this, the first change I really liked from it versus Jug's sheet was immediately the first tab was Mount Hyjal Phase 3, and it just throws you into it, right? And you can understand immediately what's going on. Whereas when you would go to Jugs' list, it was on Phase 3 BIS resources as the first tab. Yeah. And I'm like, this should be the last tab, not this. Because immediately when I see that, I'm just like, okay, like this is not what I clicked on this sheet for. This is additional resources that I think should not be in front of like everything else.
Well, because like the big thing is that Jugs wasn't ready to release it. That's why if you look at the links for a lot of these, some of these 70 upgrades are like weird personal 70 upgrades links that don't aren't actually like the BIS he wants to use. So like some people have like really weird like BIS links if they just copy pasted it from Jugs and didn't check it, because some of the things are really weird.
Like full context, this is not a Snow endorsed list. This is a Zirene endorsed list, and it's made by Tigward. So just to absolve you of anything where people go like, I can't believe Snow released a BIS list that says Warglaive Prio's Fury Warrior. Like, no. I still feel like a lot of the predictions we had about BT and Warriors and Mages and stuff like that, it's pretty much all like still lining up. Like Mages are still number 1 right now with the DPS that they do and the items that they have going into this phase. Warlocks are there as well, and then Warriors are going to get better and better with Armor Pen. Hyjal, on the other hand, holy shit. Hyjal is a completely different instance. This thing, boy, am I happy for Hyjal, because as a prop paladin, I'm actually a DPS class. I'm like I'm like literally number 6 on the meter throughout all of Hyjal because of Consecrate. Like, if you're a rep paladin out there and you want to parse on overall for Hyjal, get a spell power set together. I'm telling you, your Consecrates plus your Holy Wrath casts are going to do way more fucking damage than you swinging at a mob in these packs. Like actually getting like if you have a Wrath of Cenarius available, if you have any of these like spell power items lying around, spell power Ret unironically will do a lot of damage in Hyjal, and you'll probably be like 5th or 6th on the meter. So
what about rogues though?
I think the Holy Paladin should also get in there too and lay Consecrate and Holy Wrath, but that's me. What about the rogue? You're like 20th. You're like 20th on the meter. The healers are out DP. The Holy Paladin will out DPS the rogue if he lays Consecrate every wave. I swear to God. So it's unfortunate. That there's mages popping 3.4 or 3.8k DPS in overall in Hyjal already. Yeah, it's because of the fact that it's just the trash is just so trivial, and there aren't really any AoE mechanics that suck. So yeah, it's iffy. Might be a big key to rogue overall damage. Yeah.
Zirene, what about distract? The very important mechanic. Imagine how much the rogue is bringing with his key distract plays.
So in a guild that would bring a rogue, distract will be very valuable because you're probably not very good and you want to distract the boss. In every other guild, And in some of my PTR sessions, you're already standing on the spawn. You have somebody go talk to Jaina, and everybody else is at the undead camp, literally standing on the spawn. So you don't have to wait for it to run over to you. So the wave is dead, next wave is coming, and it spawns there. You just lay consecrate. So, and you can't distract the packs, you can only distract the boss. So, yeah, the packs apparently are like immune or see-through stealth. I don't remember, but yeah. Yeah, the rogue can be the one talking to Jaina. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, what the rogue will do is he'll vanish on the last pack, mount up, and then run towards Jaina. Or during the boss. During the boss, he'll vanish, run over to that guy, and then boom.
God,
easy.
I gotta level my boomkin. Speaking of poor rogue issues.
What? Why would you level a boomkin?
Because we need a boomkin. Or rather,
resto druid.
No, yeah, we don't have the sacrificial resto boomkin yet.
Yeah.
And we need one. Us rogues are rotating the boomkin row because we have 3 rogues, and that's what you do when you have a raid with 3 rogues. We did find out, by the way, that it is.
Nah, you kicked 2 of them.
It is really hard to maintain bringing the extra rogue in when you're trying to prio glaives to a particular rogue. Right, it actually gets really complicated because before you could just be like, oh well, you guys just like rotate the rogues whenever, and you guys can take turns. But now you realize like, wait, this one rogue needs to be there for every Illidan kill, so it's really like he can't be sitting, and it gets weird. So yeah, that's why we have boomkins now. I got level of boomkin. We're part-time boomkins.
Oh, Brian Birmingham tweet.
Ooh, wait, what's this?
Exact time should be posted officially soon, but it'll be globally simultaneous. So it's actually early morning on the 28th in Asia and Australia, late at night on the 27th or 28th in EU, in the afternoon in the 27th in the US. Hope that helps. So yeah, that's going to be like 3 p.m.
Oh, so that time was right. Yeah, someone told me 3 p.m., but I don't know where they got that.
Well, it's because it was last time the expected time was 3 p.m. And then they released it for us. So,
all right, guys, this is a fun one. We're back. So we will see you guys. I don't know. Hopefully there's more news, but I guess at the latest it will be in like 2 weeks because we literally got phase 3 launching and everything. So there should be a lot of stuff coming up, at least in a couple weeks. So yeah, hope you guys have a good one. Thank you for stopping by. This has been Prepared, and we will catch you guys next time.
See ya.